again, for this entire time, when I was struggling mentally, is when basically my sex addiction started. So basically the only thing, because I wasn't drinking, wasn't doing drugs, but that's what most people do. They use these substances to escape. Pardon?
An outlet.
An outlet, yeah, to escape. And that's basically what I was using. So I basically wasn't feeling anything. I was numb to the world. So basically I then started to use sex as a form of self-abuse, essentially. And that's what it was. Like one day I remember that I was sleeping with 5 girls on the same day. And again, that sounds like, oh yeah, lad. No, it wasn't at all. Like it was a form of self-abuse.
Welcome to the Prime Life Project podcast, a place to help you unlock your full potential, both mentally and physically, to become the best version of you.
Welcome back to an episode of the Prime Life Project podcast. I'm your host, Daniel James, and today I've got a super special guest sat opposite me in the studio. I know I say this every week, but this genuinely is a super special guest. I've got my girlfriend, Katie Kilbride, sat opposite me today, and she's going to be interviewing me, which is something that has never happened before. Me and Mikey, for those long-term listeners, you remember about 2 years ago, Mikey interviewed me and we spoke about my story. And the way this all happened was I'd actually come back from a therapy session. We were meant to have a guest, the guest cancelled. So then Mikey took it upon himself to interview me, which wasn't part of the plan. And obviously, if you've heard me and Mikey talk before, the conversation just naturally sort of flowed into my life and my story. And a lot's happened in the last 2 years, and for me, I think it's really important, especially some of the stuff I share on the Thursday Thoughts, where I go into a lot of detail about helping you guys. It's important that you kind of know a bit more about my story. So I'm not coming here and it seems like I'm preachy or that I know everything and that my life's perfect. It's taken a while to get to where I'm at right now. And the person sat opposite me, Katie, every single person walking this planet is the person that knows the most about me. And I have no idea what she's going to ask me today. So she's got a lot of questions. I literally know nothing. So this is completely unscripted for me. I'm just going with the flow. But the whole purpose of this is for you guys to understand why I'm so passionate about what I do and why I am so much on a mission, I would say, to get this information out there, going to schools and all that sort of stuff, and just basically just to give back and give back some of this information that I've got. And I feel like I'm rambling on, maybe I'm a little bit nervous. But I'm going to pass over to Katie, and yeah, see you guys on the other side.
Hello.
Hello. Listen, this is a podcast, so you're not going to get an audience response. So, hello.
Thanks. Hello.
Also, for caveat, this is the first time Kate's ever been on a podcast before, so yeah. This will be pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay, so the podcast that you and Mikey did, so I actually listened to it last week for the first time because I'd not listened to it. So I have.
You never listened to it?
No, not until like last week.
Oh.
So it was like over 2.5 years ago, and I think when I listened to it, like you said, you just come back from a therapy session, which was, for me, knowing you was evident in the way that you were speaking, and it was really, I guess, really clear to see how much you have changed as a person. So I think now is a really good time to kind of go through this. So let's start from the beginning. So the very beginning.
I feel this is like, Daniel, this is your life.
There's no red book.
There's no red book. Mikey's just going to put some photos of me as a baby, just editing through the thing.
There's no red book. So let's start. So your childhood. So what was your childhood like growing up? How was that for you from like little Daniel?
How little are we talking? How far back do you want me to go?
Like small Daniel, like primary school Daniel.
I can't remember much really about growing up. One of the main things for me that stood out in school is that it was in secondary school where I found out that I was dyslexic. I was never academic in the slightest, and I always struggled in school. I find it really hard to make eye contact with them doing this. I don't know why. you know everything about me anyway. I find it anyway. But my clients are loving this, seeing me squirm a little bit. But no, during school, again, dyslexic, got diagnosed with dyslexia in year 5, I think. And I always struggled in school. I remember really struggling in maths from a young age. I remember I had a mission in my life. And even from that young age, I was a good goalkeeper. I remember I kept thinking to myself, like, I'm going to be something when I'm older. And I thought I was going to be a football player, and I had these real clear visions of like, I'm going to help people, or people are going to come and watch me, or just something weird. And I can't really describe it, but I thought it was all to do with football. And football was basically my crutch growing up. I wasn't good academically, but I was good with football. And then as I went to secondary school, I then kind of didn't have the best time. I got bullied for being dyslexic. Back in the day, you used to have like a sheet of paper, like remember those overhead projector sheets. So for those of you that don't remember them, go and Google it. Basically like a sheet of plastic that you basically would put over your work. And my colour was green. So whenever I read anything that was green, it kind of helped. So with dyslexia, the way I can describe it is like the words kind of jump about a little bit, like jumble around. So not like actually jump up and move around the screen, but like I'd really struggle with words like because and a B and a D. I'd mix them around and I just couldn't figure it out. But then when you put this green sheet of paper over it, it would kind of just settle the words down. My brain was able to comprehend it a bit better. And then it turned them into glasses, which I thought, oh, this is great. Like I've actually now got some glasses. This is amazing. Turns out other people didn't think that they were as cool as me, so that didn't help. I also had really bad skin in secondary school. Had really bad spots, really self-conscious, had really oily skin. I used to get bullied for having a big head, and literally my only saving grace was playing football, and like the popular kids like me. So that was really, really cool. So popular kids like me because I played for a lot of football teams, so I was the one saving their ass as the goalkeeper. But then at break time, I was a kid that liked Warhammer, like rock music, like skateboarding, like computer games before they were cool. And I didn't really know where I fit in. So I remember very, very vividly in secondary school just walking around on break times, just pretending like I was going to do something, but I wasn't, just walking around by myself because I didn't really know where I fit in. And I remember one time specifically, I was with the, like not the cool kids, but like the alternate cool kids back in the day, like the skaters. I was there just chatting to one of them, and I'd been at this Warhammer thing with one of them at the weekend. I just basically started, so it was me, my best mate at the time, and this other kid, and my best mate liked Warhammer, and then we were talking to this other kid about Warhammer, or I mentioned it, and then my mate just smacked me and went, we don't talk about it in school, like almost like I'd embarrassed this kid. I was just like, okay, right, so we don't talk about that, so okay. And I just remember at that sort of time, there being such a pressure on girls, and girls, like the popular kids, all the girls like the popular kids, and it's like, oh right, so I need to try and get in with the girls. But I was no good with the girls at the time. And kind of everything sort of came to a head with me in year 11, I think it was. And one of my good mates at the time, he fancied this girl, but this girl fancied me. She's from another school. I actually don't know how I got introduced to her. I think I was babysitting someone, and then some relative of that kind of knew her. Anyway, some weird thing. And he really fancied her, but I didn't know this. And then she really fancied me, and I really fancied her. And I was basically speaking to my mate about it. He's like, oh, but I really like her. So I did what most boys do at that age. I basically sacked him off and got with this girl. And I used to have to catch 2 buses to go see her. So after school, jump on one bus in the centre of town, jump on another bus. And at this time, I was a virgin. This is all relevant to my story as well. I'm sure you're going to tap into some of this stuff. So this is all relevant. So I was a virgin at the time. Didn't have much attention from girls at all. And this girl was absolutely stunning. Like she was like half Persian or something. She had great skin complexion, like everything about her, like dark hair, like olive skin. Way out my league. And I couldn't believe that she fancied me rather than my mate. And there was basically one time where I remember a mum went out to Asda and she was like, right, like put a condom on and have sex with me. And I freaked the hell out. I was like, literally, I can remember it now. I was like, no, because obviously the fear God was putting to you about having sex. So there's me like worrying that my knob's going to fall off or something. Like a proper, like I genuinely was just freaking out. I was like, oh my God, like what do you do?
Actually, like, how bad it was?
Yeah, I just freaked out. I just literally like, what do you mean? Like, I don't think I even know how to put a condom on. So I think that was the main thing in my head. Is like, I don't know what to do with this. I was like, oh, I'm to go home and practice put one of these things on. So I basically freaked out and said no. And then she essentially then broke up with me like that night. And then the next day got with someone else and basically knowing certain terms kind of told me it's because that he would have sex with her. So then my brain, and I only realised this at 28, which again I'm sure we'll get to, that moment for me, something switched in my brain. It was basically like hot girls only like guys that have sex. And that was something I hadn't really realised because it's quite a traumatic thing for me because I'd lost a mate over it. And it was through something that I felt like I couldn't control, and again, I felt like, you know, when you're in a relationship like this, that's not how. The whole thing was just new to me, and it did break me for a little bit. And yeah, that kind of was all really what I remember. Again, I was in Scouts growing up. I don't know what else we want to talk about. Yeah, I was in Scouts. I did like the whole Beavers Cub Scouts. I was really hype in Scouts as well, so I really loved that. Played squash quite a bit. So I was very active, but football was my main thing.
Yeah, so it sounds like you had a lot going on when you were like going through primary school, secondary school, that you were pretty good at quite a lot of things.
But this is also where I noticed my depressive tendencies kicking in. So don't look back now, I look back, that's where I noticed that I was feeling low. So I didn't mean to interrupt there, but there's one time when I was playing squash with my mate, and it's one of the earliest memories I can about that voice inside my head. So my mate's dad was like a county or regional squash player, so very, very good. And obviously he played with his dad all the time, so he was clearly better than me. I just played with him every now and again. He always used to beat me, but there's one time he was absolutely kicking my ass at squash. And I remember, like, I just literally heard this voice inside my head, and it went, "You are so fucking useless. Go and jump off Trent Bridge." And it literally was the first time I ever heard this, and I was like, "What the hell?" It was almost like a microphone.
And how old were you at this point, roughly?
14.
Okay, so teenager.
Yeah, teenager.
Hormonal.
100%. And I was like, "Whoa." I just ever heard anything like that, and I was like, "That's really weird." It kind of shook me a little bit. And I was like, well, that's weird. If anyone doesn't know, Trent Bridge is the big bridge in in Nottingham by the Nottingham Forest football ground. And I was a bit like, this is really weird. And like I said, I didn't ever, it's only as an adult that I look back and remember that moment, but I never processed that. I never thought about it again. I just remember this loud voice be like, you're so fucking useless, go to Trent Bridge. And I just ignored it.
And at this age, did you have any other thoughts? Or was that just literally a one-off? Or was there other little bits and bobs, that voice inside your head?
The voice, if I look back now, I probably would have a lot of stuff when it comes to girls and stuff. I probably would turn around and say, like, oh, they're never going to fancy you. Or I'd probably be walking around by myself inside my own head at break times being like, oh, you don't really fit in, you don't really belong anywhere. I can't remember any of those thoughts, but that's looking back at
really
how knowing who I am and looking back, that is definitely the kind of thoughts I'd have had in my head at that time. Very much keep myself stuck in a victim mindset, just replaying stuff over my head, overthinking stuff. That was definitely me to a T, worried about what other people thought of me. And I think it's a very common thing with kids nowadays anyway, with the power of social media. I was very, very self-conscious about what I wore. This is something really interesting as well, why I won't wear Gap clothing. So on non-uniform day one day, I went in a Gap hoodie, and it was one of my favourite items of clothing because, again, growing up, we didn't have loads of money and stuff, so we didn't have fancy clothes. And I was like, oh, like Gap's a brand. I was like, cool. So I wore this Gap hoodie, and I went to drama class. God, this must have been year 9. And literally someone went in and said, "Hi, you like Gap?" And I went, "What do you mean?" It says gay and proud. And then from that moment on, I never wore any Gap stuff. And I was really self-conscious about that. Really, really self-conscious. And then at one point, I think someone made fun of my hair. So that's why I had a massive hang-up on my hair as well. So that's kind of like where I was with stuff. Because you see these other kids coming in on these non-uniform days and it looks so trendy. And that just wasn't me at all. So that's something, again, not we spoke about before, but that's something that's really vividly in my head. It was in drama class, I remember it. Yeah, I remember we sat in this theatre and it's in a circle and someone said it to me. I was like, oh, this doesn't feel good. Yeah,
what's really coming through here is how much you really took on board what other people said and thought about you from everything that you've said so far throughout your whole childhood. That's kind of the theme that's kind of coming through, is whether it's about you, how you looked, how you walked, how you, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, some of the people like me.
Yeah. Okay. So that's your school. That's, you as a person outside of school. So what was life like at home? So you're one of 4 boys. Obviously, I know all your family. I can imagine it was very busy. There was a lot going off. What was life like at home?
Again, I can't remember. I genuinely can't really remember much. And I've been told off multiple times for sharing stuff about my family, so I'm just going to roll with it again and probably get told off by my family again. So this is just my truth. And again, so at no point, I want to make it very clear, at no point did I have a bad upbringing. Like my parents were absolutely awesome. They're great parents. And again, look back now, and I'll probably talk about in a second about some realizations I've had recently. But for me, again, I always felt very left out because I was the eldest one. So for me, it was always, again, I always felt hard done by. I felt hard done by. I'm not saying I was hard done by, but that's how it always felt to me. Like my brothers were always the favourites. They were smarter than me. I just felt like the stupid one. And my dad used to have, again, bearing in mind, so at this time, my dad, I look at how old I am now at 34. My dad would have had 4 boys at this time. So I understand now the kind of pressure he was under. And again, he was building a career, doing what he was doing. So I understand now. Massive understand, but again, he had a lot of anger issues. Again, never took it out on us or anything. But for example, if he couldn't find his keys, like I just remember him swearing, like turning the house upside down, throwing stuff everywhere, and I remember that. And then I was always get shouted at for swearing. But I'm like, but you're swearing, like so. Again, you're trying to mimic your role models. And my dad always just come and watch me play football. And then at one point, he then took over the one that's just below me, brother's football team, and then he stopped coming to my games. And for me, I just then felt very like a spare part almost. So I loved him coming. But then when he did come, it was very much, what's the word? Very analytical, critical, which again, I hated it at the time, but I look back now and I kind of value that. Like I like when people give me positive feedback, that's all he was doing. But as a kid, when no one explains to you why they're giving you that kind of feedback, you kind of take it on board as it's negative and you're not good enough. But actually, I know now why. And again, it's been really beneficial to me to sort of understand that. But like we went on family holidays, we never went abroad. Like it was all just like look family. I used to hate it at the time. I used to hate going to like see castles and stuff. I was so bored out of my. But I look back now, I'm like these holidays were so good. And obviously, when I travelled down to Cornwall by myself a couple of years ago, I was thinking, bloody hell, my dad used to do this with 4 of us in the back, like kicking and screaming and doing all that sort of stuff. So I've got so much respect from parents, like so much respect for how they raised us, because we're all good boys. Like we've got good values, good morals. Yeah, my brothers are absolutely awesome. Like, I don't have a bad word to say about them. They're just great human beings, like really good role models. I think they're fantastic. Like, so I've got nothing bad to say about that. It's just, I think my issues were me. So this is when, again, I think this is where my parents get inside their own head when I share stories from my childhood. It's just, it was me. I was the problem in my own head, if that makes sense. So how I interpreted stuff, I made it about me. Does that make sense? So again, it's not saying that was how it actually was, but again, safe, loving household. I was never afraid of anything, but I just remember like very aware of what mood my dad was in. And not wanting to talk to him, and again, if he was working, and I just wanted to talk to him, like just getting shouted at. Basically, just wanted attention. Just wanted attention, love, and affection. And I understand now that he had a lot on his plate to basically provide for us and do what he was doing. So I don't hold any resentment. And again, I also sort of look back and think, again, so this is a new realization for me as well. And don't know why I'm talking on this podcast. I actually want to talk to my dad about it in person, which I will also kind of skirt around it a little bit. Is that the realization I had recently was that growing up, everyone used to say I was so much like my dad. That's something that everyone would say to me, you're so much like your dad. And it just dawned on me the other day that if I'm so much like my dad and I struggle with my mental health, then it stands to reason that my dad may have struggled with mental health. Again, I don't know if he does, this is just me completely hypothesizing. But either way, at that sort of age, if he had it done with so much pressure on him and knowing what I'm like and how I deal with it, and if I'm so much like him, then it stands to reason they had a lot of pressure and he may have been struggling as well. Maybe inside his own head like I am, because he's very, very smart, very, very intellectual. And again, obviously guys don't verbalize emotions and stuff. So for him, it's just like crack on and get on with it. Like I've got to provide for my family kind of stuff. And he did a great job. So like I said, that's in a nutshell my family. Yeah.
And how you described you felt at home, that you were the odd one out. Obviously, there's logistically there's a lot to kind of not make you feel that way. But you know, if your mum had younger children that literally require more attention, and you were more self-sufficient, you've got this happening over here. And then I guess over here you've got how you're feeling at school. Do you reckon that all kind of amounted together and caused you to be even more inside your own head than you probably were, like this, you know, situationally?
Yeah, because I remember that whenever I wanted to play on like one of my brother's computer games or something like that, I'd always get shouted at. Yeah, if they wanted to play on mine, they didn't seem to have the same repercussions. So I think I spent a lot of time at home as well by myself, which again wasn't necessarily a bad thing. I remember like playing with Action Mans and all that sort of stuff. I was fine. Like by myself, like little wrestling figures. I loved doing that. Yeah. And like I said, me and my brothers growing up definitely weren't that close. My brothers were closer than I was. Yeah. So those three were closer together than I was. Yeah. Which again is probably down to me and my attitude. Yeah. So again, that's just what it is. But actually, and we always used to fight and stuff between us all. But now as we've grown up, we've got a real good relationship and we're really close. But at the time, I think there's that brotherly rivalry and that hierarchy and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, definitely. I think a lot of the time I was inside my own head without realising I was inside my own head. And I think I took a lot of things personally. I think I'm very sensitive. And it's only realising that now as an adult how sensitive I actually am. So I think any sort of feedback or anything that I'd have received at that age, I would have taken it very, very personally and made it about me. Yeah. And I think that then also perpetuated my need for constant validation, for people to like me and be a people pleaser and fit in and do all that sort of stuff, because I think that I just fundamentally wanted love. I'm not saying I didn't get it at home, but not necessarily how I receive love, if that makes sense. And then again, physical touch, quality time, and as we sort of mentioned, my family's not the quality time obviously had to get spread out with my brothers, and I was more self-sufficient, so I get that. And again, physical touch, we're not really a huggy kind of family, which again is absolutely fine, no problem with that. Like again, each their own kind of stuff. And then we don't really communicate about feelings either. So I think I was feeling a lot of things and not really knowing what to do with it. And then as I look back through my teens, my 20s especially, like I was very, very angry, and I didn't know why I was angry. I had so much built up pent-up anger, and for me, it all just comes back to that I didn't know how to process my emotions, and I was so inside my own head that basically I was trapped and I was a prisoner. And that's why one of my missions now as an adult is to try and help people get out of the prison that they've put themselves in, because that's what most people have done. That they're living inside a prison that they've put themselves in. They don't realise that they've done it to themselves. So that's why that's one of my missions. My mission statement in my head, like, but it's a personal thing that I say to myself. Like that's what I look to do, like, because I just look at how trapped I was. And I didn't realise that I just needed to. I had the key to unlock it myself. I just thought I was trapped. So I don't know. I had the key. I just needed someone to tell me.
Yeah. So at this point, you've got these tendencies to people please. You feel lost. You feel isolated. You're coming to the end of your school career. What's next?
School career. Oh, well, it's hardly much of a career. I got GCSEs. Didn't do badly. I think basically I got 4 Bs, 5 Cs, and 2 Ds or something like that. But basically all the ones I got high grades in were like religious studies, for example. Like they weren't big ones. All the like maths, I got a C, and just scraped a C somehow. So I didn't do that great. And then naturally, like, what am I going to do in my life? And I thought, I'd go to college. That's what everyone does. Didn't really want to go to college. I hated school. I hated school with a passion. I hated it. So I don't even know why I went to college.
Did you hate school, as in the learning and the school element, or did you hate the whole experience and how you felt and the friends?
Okay. Both. I hated school. Okay. I literally could not see the point in school. I hated it. I struggled so much at maths. And again, I was that kid who's like, we're going to have a calculator in our pocket. No, we'll have carry calculator. Like, oh, we're not going to have that now. We've got the phones.
I know.
Like, I literally, I didn't understand why we were understanding Pythagoras' theorem. I didn't get it. I still don't. I make it very clear. I still don't know my times table. I know my ones. I know my twos. I know my threes up to like 7 times 3. I know my fours if we go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I know my fives. Don't know my sixes. Don't know my sevens. Don't know my eights. Don't know my nines. I know my tens. I don't know my 11s. I don't know my times table. And again, I'm a very successful business person. Like, I pay someone to do my accounts. I've got a calculator. I can figure stuff out. A lot of the stuff we learn, I didn't see the point in it. And also being dyslexic, you're trying to make me read Old English Shakespeare. I can't read normal English, and you're trying to make me read Shakespeare. I found the whole thing just so frustrating. It made me feel stupid. And I just hated it. I hated every second. The one thing I did like is history. And again, the reason I got such a good grade in history, I think I got a B, is because I think I've shared the story on the podcast before, is that a history teacher stood me in front of the whole class, and I had the girl I fancied in the school in front of me, and she said, "You're never going to amount to anything in your life." And again, one of the biggest things, if you want to light a fire at my ass, tell me I can't do something. And I was like, fuck you. I was like, fuck you. So I basically went and got a CD-ROM. Can you remember the CD-ROMs?
Yeah.
Basically, like an interactive CD that you put in, and it was interactive, and it
spoke
taught me,
to you.
and it spoke to you, and you basically had little games and stuff, all about World War I and World War II. And that's the only reason why I got a B in history, because I literally was like, every night, do you think I'm not going to answer anything? I'm going to show you. And literally, I just studied, and that's the only subject I studied for. Did not study for any other ones for my exams, but I studied for that because I was like, fuck you. I was so angry at how she spoke to me, how she made me feel. And again, I look back now, and that's a really positive thing to have. A lot of people talk about not harnessing that negative energy, but actually, I used it for the positive. Does that make sense? And then I just didn't realise how much that had affected me as an adult. But at that time, it was actually very beneficial to have that negative energy to motivate me, because I didn't have any other motivation to do anything for any of the subjects. So leaving school, didn't want to carry on. So I don't know why I went to college, got no idea, to do A-levels as well. So I think I did IT, I did media, psychology, and something else. And I ended up failing 2 of them. And I can't remember this, and I had to do 8 S-levels. So basically, I basically failed all my A-levels, essentially. Even media, where you just sit there and watch a movie. Like, that was literally what we did, and I failed that. And then on my last year, so in the 2 years there, the college football team I was at, that's why I went to college for the football. So the football team in the college was really, really good. So I went there just to play football, and it's like B-Techs and stuff. I didn't really know much about that. So I was like, oh, I'll just do A-levels, because that's fine. But everyone else on the football team was doing B-Techs.
They were quite new when we were
B-Techs, yes. No one really knew much about them. So my parents were like, oh, do A-levels as a safer option.
That's what everyone did.
Yeah, I was like, cool, safer option. But it was the football team. So the football team was really, really good. So in 2 years, failed my A-levels. But then at college, you can have three years. And for football, you're eligible for 3 years.
Okay.
So everyone in the football team that finished their B-Tech were like, oh, we're going to become personal trainers. So I was like, oh, cool. So I did that to stay on the football team for another year.
Oh, okay.
Literally just to play football. And every single player that was of my age was in my class to do personal training. So literally for the personal training qualification, like, we just had a blast, like going to local David Lloyd. And it was a year-long course. And this is the thing that people don't really understand about the fitness industry. Back in the day, when I qualified, it was a year-long course. It was a year-long, in-person,
a
practical thing. Like, it took a year to get this thing. So now you get this stuff online, and people are like, oh, I'm a PT. It's like, you're not really. Like,
you've done an
online course. Like, to actually do it properly, have the practical element of it, and know how to coach people, know how to do all that stuff. That's what I did. I had no intention of being a personal trainer. And so basically, I then did that.
It was just something to do so you could stay on the football team.
Exactly. And then halfway through the year, the other goalkeeper from the year before had got a scholarship in America. So I was just like, what, you can just go and play football in America? Because that's all I wanted to do, just play football. So I remember it really, really clearly that I knew that I wasn't the best, because at the time there was another college goalkeeper who was very good. He'd come down from a professional football team. But I was playing for a very good local football team, so like a professional club's academy. So I was basically playing for about 3 teams, very high level, but not at the college level. And I knew that I needed to put a video together. So I basically said to my dad, this all happened within the space of, I'm not joking, a month, maybe 2 months. My dad will be able to tell me the exact times. But I made the decision I wanted to go to America. So I basically had to call in loads of favours to basically play for these teams. And then my dad video recorded me. So he came to watch my games.
Like with a video
which is
recorder?
Great. Yeah, with a proper video recorder. And again, it was great to have him there, but there's also a lot of pressure on me because of him being there. And basically one of the games I played in, because I had to call in a favour, I think we lost 7-1. So as a goalkeeper, I'm a goalkeeper. So they're trying to get a highlight reel, and there's not really much. My dad was laughing at me like, well, that's not like much. Not
going to get you anywhere.
Because at the time, what happened is it was flooding. So there was a lot of flooding. So I had to call in favours to try and play on these other teams, because the teams I've normally paid for, I couldn't. So then that all happened. Then my dad edited it. Like, still on YouTube to this day. I'm not going to give anyone any links. It's still there.
It's shambolic. I am going to be watching this later.
And then basically, I kind of got conned by a company, which I'd forgotten about until this moment, actually, where basically my parents ended up paying them like maybe $2,000 or something, and they were meant to get me over in America, and they didn't do anything. So then I took it upon myself. So then I emailed loads of schools. So I basically got the list of all these schools and I basically emailed them myself, this video. And then one university got back to me. Oh no, so quite a few did. And I basically picked the one that suited me best because one of them was like a really Christian school.
So at this point, everything you've told me so far, this is the first glimpse of drive, determinism. Like, I want to do this, so I am going to do this.
Apart from the history.
Yeah. So we link it back to the history. So I've heard the story about this history teacher many a time and how it was a turning point in your life because the not amounting to be anything part of it. But actually, do you think that is the turning point of you thinking, I want to do that and I will do that, and that hard work and that drive and that determinism?
Potentially, but also at that point I'd done paper rounds. Again, when I was in year 11, I was working a full-time job. So I was I say full-time job, I was working like part-time at a restaurant as a waiter. So I had that drive, but I'd never really harnessed it or used it, if that makes sense.
For something that you wanted.
For something that I wanted. But again, like to get up every day, to be a paper boy, if anyone's never done it, like rain, shine, whatever it is, like the mailman, but you're a young boy and you've got to go to school and you're riding a bike and you've got some, so it's quite brutal. So I had this drive and I had it within me, but with the America thing, definitely that was a big thing for me to be like, actually, there's something I want to do. And I just saw no other choice. So like no other options, right, I'm doing it myself. So I just remember getting a list of all these things, just emailing. And then I said that I had an option between a few schools, and this one of them was like a really religious school, which I'm really glad I didn't go to, but I really debated doing it. It's like a Covenant in Georgia. It's a mountain. The school was amazing. It's like a mountain. Looking back, it would have been nuts, but obviously I wasn't into any sort of religious stuff. I was like, no. And I was in Georgia, so it had been really, really warm. So then I ended up going to Iowa, and that was sort of me then. That was me. Just managed to get there. It all happened very, very quickly. I remember my dad having to drive.
So you went having not been there before, you've not looked at it, you've literally seen a picture on the internet.
Yeah, and then a lot of the other lads on my football team wanted to go as well. So to get there, you have to do your SATs, which is basically like you hit in America, like, your SATs are basically like the equivalent of GCSEs or A-levels or something to prove you can go into university. So all of us football lads drove up to Manchester. So imagine a group of football lads at that age when I was drinking, and basically we all got absolutely trashed and then went to sit the exams. And again, remember, I'm not academic. And these are like college level exams. I failed them all. And my dad was fuming. Absolutely fuming. The other guys passed. And the way the SATs work is you start with a base score, like say 1,000. And for every wrong answer, you lose a point. For every positive one, you get 2 or whatever it is. And I basically completely bombed. So my dad was furious because we'd done so much work to try and get this all sorted. And I had the agreement I just need to get my SAT results. So he then drove me up to Durham by myself to then do this exam again, and it was really funny. And I remember just going to this like thing at the top of this pub and like just to sleep for the night, and it was just all bizarre. And anyway, I managed to pass them somehow, because again I was meant to revise for them, didn't revise for them. Sorry, Dad. And so I passed the exams and that was it. I was all set and ready to go. Never been to America before. Kind of just got on the flight and sort of like there, and I was like, well, this is pretty intense. And I knew at the time that my roommate was going to be Brazilian. So again, I'm there, go to a new country, and my roommate's going to be Brazilian. So straight away, I'd never met a Brazilian before. No, in my head, I was like, they speak Brazilian. I need to learn Brazilian, not realising it's Portuguese. So that's literally my ignorance to the whole situation. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. Yet again, I look back at it now, my head I was really struggling mentally the entire time that I was there. And I never made the most of actually being out there because of how much I struggled.
In what way did you struggle? How did that looking back, how did that manifest itself?
So when I first went over there, there's a massive connotation about Americans being really bad at football. So in my head, I'm like, well, I'm a good goalkeeper in England. I'm going to go there. I'm going to be number one goalkeeper. I'm going to smash it. Not realising how the system in America works. And it's based on seniority. Unless you are literally incredible, the senior player in your position will play. That's just how it works. So there's a goalkeeper that's been there for a year longer than me. So he's going to start. Unless I go there and I'm exceptionally better than him, he starts. That's just how it works. I didn't know this at the time. So there's me, massive ego, thinking I'm going to absolutely smash this. I get there. It turns out they're very good at football, and it's the highest standard I've ever played at. So I had a really rude awakening. The first year I was there, I didn't play. I came on as a sub twice, and as a goalkeeper, for those like getting 10 minutes at the end of the game, your team's got to be doing quite well. So I just felt very like a bit of a spare part. I then had so again, clearly looking at the time there, I was struggling with depressive tendencies. I really struggled mentally with that because I loved football. I only went there to play football, and I wasn't playing football and had to study, which I didn't want to do in the first place. So I drank a lot. I smoked loads of weed, and I ate loads of food. So when I was on a football scholarship and you're basically training twice a day, every day, I managed to gain like 3 or 4 stone. Like I was massive. Like I gained so much weight, and I gave myself asthma, sports-induced asthma, because of how big I got. And it's such an interesting thing, especially when I was as a personal trainer. People see my physique and think, oh, I've never struggled with anything. But I had a massive thing because in my household growing up, we only had fast food for special occasions. So birthdays, whenever it was your birthday, you got to pick what you wanted. Yeah. And mine was pizza, like Pizza Hut, pepperoni stuffed crust. Like that was my thing.
And still is your thing.
Yeah, and same with like McDonald's. You only ever have McDonald's on very special occasions. Like it wasn't a thing for us. So for me, like that whole thing about being a happy meal, these foods were a happy place for me. So there's me struggling with my emotions, not realising I was struggling with my emotions at all, feeling very low, very homesick, very, very, very homesick. I didn't realise.
And what were you homesick for?
A girl. So again, at the time, I kind of broke up with a girlfriend, kind of moved to America to kind of run away a bit as well. But again, I still, as guys do, was ruminating, fantasizing about what she's up to and getting in my own head about that and beating myself up about that. I then just missed being at home comforts. Yeah. I couldn't drive at this time in America. There's loads of things that I missed, like just because again, I wasn't really buying into culture, keeping myself to myself rather than just throwing myself into it. Exactly. And again, I was trying to make myself feel better by trying to sleep with girls, and that wasn't really working either because they couldn't understand me. So they loved the accent, but they couldn't actually understand what I was saying.
Okay.
So again, just picture that, like everyone's like, it was really interesting, like, oh, like he's quite attractive, but we can't understand what he's saying, but we love his accent. So for me, it was really frustrating because back in the UK, at this point, I kind of got myself into a groove with like sleeping with quite a few people, thinking you're the man and your ego's massive.
Yeah.
So that wasn't helping. And then food was just there. So literally opposite the university, you had this long strip and you had your McDonald's, your Burger King, your Subway, your Wendy's, your Hardee's, your pizza. And literally, I just went to town, and that's how I gained so much weight because I was just trying to process my emotions. Because again, I just wanted to fit in. I just wanted to be liked. And although I had a great group of friends, so there was me, Rafa, my roommate from Brazil. There was a guy called Timmy Farmer, who was an American guy, and his roommate, Nick DeBacker, who was from Belgium. So us four were like inseparable. Like we're like best mates, still best mates to this day. As a shout out to those guys. But again, they really, really helped. But again, they never would have known how much I struggled. So if they listened to this, they would not know. No one would have known how much I struggled in America. Yeah. No one. I kept it to myself. My parents didn't know. No one knew. And I just used to mope. I used to stay in my room a lot. I used to just play on the video games. I remember that first year I did try and go out to watch some like high school football games and stuff. I did try and put myself out there, but I just felt very, very awkward. Like I'm very naturally introverted. Yeah. And I'm very, very introvert, but I was trying to be extrovert because I was like, I need to try and make the most of this. And the more I was trying to do that, it was draining. And then obviously drinking on top of that, which doesn't help, and then smoking weed, which didn't help, and then gaining all this weight, which didn't help. So all this stuff, and then not playing football, it was just a ticking time bomb for this is just a nightmare. Yeah,
just a concoction of things that were just going to
absolutely
cause a nightmare. Yeah. And at this point, you still drank, right?
Yep.
At what point did you stop drinking?
So that was in my final year. So my final year of university. So to sort of like tie the knot into this, first year, we had a coach that got me over to America. We didn't do very well as a team. We were just a ragtag bunch of guys that had been thrown together. Then we got a new coach who was another English guy. So the original one was English. This one was English. This guy was militant. Absolutely militant. And he was like, you guys are terrible. You're not going to get any better, but you will not be outworked. So you will run. And if anyone outworks you, you will run. And if you lose, you will run. So basically, he created a team of monsters. The same guys, the exact same guys from the year before, maybe a few additions. And we won the league. And which then meant we were then nationally ranked, which then meant we brought in more talent. Yeah. So again, I didn't play in that season. Again, so I sat on the bench again, but I was getting better. And then that was then the point where I was like, I can't remember what year that would have been. So there's 2 different years. September, what year would that have been? So that year, I had a goalkeeping coach in the summer.
Okay,
so I was back home in the UK. I came back home in the summer, and I was loads better than what I was. So again, thought I was going to get better. Yeah. Again, not the case. And just for the record here, the other goalkeeper was miles better than me. Yeah. Miles better than me. Like 100% he was. Yeah. I thought I was better than him, but looking back, so again, this also again, when I look back at this, and I'm very ashamed, and I've never spoke about this on the podcast, never even verbalized this, very ashamed and embarrassed about how I handled the whole situation. And actually think about this, I'm going to send this to him after I've done this, because his name was Nick Roman. Guy was absolutely awesome. Mexican guy. His dad was a hard-working grafter. Like you hear about, like the Mexican immigrants in America. That was his dad. His dad was an absolute grafter. Like ran his own tarmacking business. Incredible, amazing family. And they always used to invite me in that first year. So bearing in mind, I wasn't playing, and I had this like grudge against him. But he was still a really nice guy. They'd invite me to their house. I met their family. It was amazing. Like he was such a welcoming guy, and I was just getting more and more bitter. So throughout the years I was there, so the third and final year that he was there, I had so much much resentment towards him because I liked him, I really liked him, but I couldn't handle my emotions again. So I had this thing of like, I hate him, but I respect him, and he's a nice guy.
Because he had what you wanted.
He had what I wanted. And again, I couldn't see it as like a learning thing. I saw it as like a jealousy thing. So the third year, so his final year, my third year, I'd been training with a pro team. A semi-pro team. So I got there, and again, really, really good. So like, this is amazing. Like, so I, again, got back, like, and they'd offered me a contract. I was like, no, I'm really good. Didn't play again. And then we were nationally ranked. And then my final year, I feel like I'm rambling here, but there's a point to this. My final year, so bear in mind, for 3 years, I'd not played.
Yeah.
And the coach says to me, go back in summer, get yourself in shape. You're going to be my captain for next year.
Okay.
I was like, okay, cool.
So captain, having not played,
having not played, you're going to be captain. You're a senior.
Yep.
You're going to be captain. I'm like, absolutely buzzing. So then I go back and I end up playing for a non-league team. So it's called in the UK, Tamworth. So I was training with them in pre-season. I managed to make an appearance as well. So I was training every single day, like a professional, with a goalkeeping coach. Very, very, very high standards. So I said I'm a goalkeeping coach, and I was playing every day. I was the best I'd ever been, the best shape I'd ever been. I was running every day. Like I was lean, because my view was I will not be outworked. Yep. So I was the fittest player on the team. When we went back for pre-season fitness tests, I was the fittest player on the team, apart from 3 or 4. I was outworking the outfield. I was fitter than all of them. And I came back and I was on fire. But then there's 4 of the goalkeepers the guy just signed. So, and he didn't make me captain.
So he went back on what he had said.
He went back on what he said. I was like, right, okay, this is interesting. So my mentality was, right, and he basically, during all the pre-season stuff, I was like, you could tell I was head and shoulders because I was ready for this. Like I've been playing at a professional men's league standard. I was there. And then we went on a pre-season tour to California, and we played against the team that was ranked 2nd and 3rd in the country. And the team that was ranked 2nd had the top goal scorer in the country. So this guy's like a bad boy. And I played there in the first game, and basically I shut him out, meaning that he didn't score past me, and he ended up getting substituted. And we ended up winning that game. I think it was either 3-2 or 2-1 or something like that. Close, but we ended up winning. And I ended up setting up a goal. I played really one of the best games I've ever played, like outstanding how I played. Then we played the game the next day against the other team, and we ended up drawing, but I set up the equalising goal. So the guy was basically like, you're the number 1 goalkeeper. Now this is where it all kind of takes a bit of a turn. During the season, played one more game after that, and again, outstanding. Like I was there. Like I was like, this is that. And it was very clear now that I'm number 1. And this time the university had other teams, so the other goalkeepers kind of filtered down. It was very clear that some of them weren't as good as what he thought, but there's this good guy that was coming from a place. Then during a training session, one of my defenders ran into me, and he broke my knuckle. So on my right hand, at the bottom of my little finger, the bottom knuckle, where he's going to punch, that the big part, literally straight across my knuckle broke. So I had to go to hospital. And basically they were like, you're done. I was just like, no. You don't understand. Like I am still playing.
I am not done.
I'm not done. And I refused to leave until I got a second opinion. And luckily, this other guy was an English guy, this doctor.
Okay.
And I said, listen, I am going to play, whether you tell me I can play or not. Whether you sign that paper, I am playing. I'd really like it if I didn't lose a finger at the end of the season. And he was just like, I hear you.
You were determined.
I'm playing. Like I've literally waited 4 years for this. I am on fire. Like I am on fire. You are not telling me that I'm not playing. So he designed a special cast that went on and off my finger. It just meant I couldn't bend my little finger, and I had to buy special gloves that were bigger than the size I normally would wear for that hand, so it would actually fit. And then the coach was like, "We're not playing." I was like, "I'm literally fine." He said, "You have to prove during this week of training that you can play." And in that time they had a game. The goalkeeper came in, played very well. So I'm thinking, nah, fuck this. My head's about to roll. But I proved myself. The only thing I couldn't do was really punch the ball properly because my finger was sticking out. But everything else, my handling was spot on. Everything was good. So I played.
Yeah.
I played every game. And again, my statistics like last year were insane. Very, very good. Made some world-class saves. We as a team played amazing. But it doesn't mean anything. So we won the league. No, we didn't win the league. Yeah, we did win the league. I think we won the league, but then we have to then win playoffs to get to this conference final. And we were winning 3-0 against his team, and it was freezing. I remember how cold it was. And then we ended up losing that game 4-3 in like the last minute. And I remember the heartache of that game. And
can you still feel it?
I still feel it. And that's when I kind of fell out of love with football because the pain was so, at the moment, the pain was just so great. Because I'd seen the other years and the other goalkeeper. At this point, by the way, the goalkeeper that left was actually the goalkeeping coach. So my relationship with him was loads better again because like he now wasn't competition to me. But I always liked him as a person. He was a great guy. Like, and even now, he's still like a goalkeeping coach for like some big universities. Like, he's still living his dream. Like, he breathed goalkeeping more than I ever did, and I loved goalkeeping. Like, in that last year, I would read books on goalkeeping. It's the only time I ever read books was on goalkeeping to get better. I was watching YouTube videos. I was literally like, "This is my season. Yeah, this is my season." But he loved goalkeeping, like, even more than I did. So, like, fair play to him. He's still doing his thing. But yeah, that was a big pinnacle for me in America.
And would you say mentally these voices inside your head were stronger? They weren't as bad at that point of which you were almost distracting yourself doing what you love to do?
Yeah, I was able to, at this point, without realising what I was doing, I was harnessing the negative energy. So any of this negativity, this hatred towards the coach, like when I was running, I literally, in my head, I'd be saying, try not to play me. Like, I'm going to show you. So I was using the negative energy positively without realising that's what I was doing. Yeah. But then also that's a very fine line. You're playing with like the dark arts then. Like, do you know what I mean? And like I said, if you can do it and use it properly, it's so powerful to use that negative energy to get you going. Because people always talk about positive energy to get you going. Yeah. And that's great. But if that doesn't motivate you, the negative energy will get you going. The problem is you can't stay there. You have to use it to get going and then move to the positive. And the problem was I was just staying in that negative. And after football had finished, I had no tools to then harness it for the positive. So I just stayed in that negative headspace. So to go back to the question, because this was the original question you asked about when I stopped drinking, so it's no long story. So I had this team built now, and the guys love me. Like, the camaraderie was amazing. But I had a lot of issues with women. There's one girl in particular who was a girlfriend of mine at the time. So we got together in the third year that I was there. But it was very on off. And basically that year that I came back from the UK, it turned out she slept with two of the members of the football team. One was a Scottish guy, one was a Canadian guy, and I think maybe three guys. So there's me. Like, I brought her back home in the summer to meet my family, and then come back, and it's kind of a bit like, you sleeping with the guys in football, like, what? So that then also, God, I forgot all about this. So that then also made me feel a bit towards the start of the season of like outsider to my team. Like, I was an outsider, and I was somehow being mugged off. But again, I just wanted love and validation, so I got back with her. Okay. And basically, long story short, the reason I stopped drinking was one night, because I still drank at this time, I was at a party, I was really, really drunk, I decided to put myself to bed. She then came to bed. Her ex-boyfriend was at the door, and long story short, and I said this story for ages, that I got beaten up in a fight. The truth is, he hit me first, I then won the fight, I got him on the floor in a headlock and said, "Are you done?" He then said yes, he then bit my hand, and then he beat me up. So I'd actually won the fight. I had him on the floor in a headlock, I'd won. He then did some nasty tricks, bit me, and then beat me up. Really badly beat me up. Because I didn't beat him up, I just got him on the floor, because I don't like fighting. I just got him on the floor. He then beat the hell out of me. So then Rafa, the Brazilian, had to pick me up. And then the football team basically went nuts and went to go find him and kick the door down and stuff like that. But then what happened is, because he was smoking weed, he was one of the main weed dealers at the university, all the football lads were still hanging out with him. So it's like they'd forgotten. They'd forgotten. Yeah, I was a bit like, that's not the loyalty that I'd show you. Yeah. Like, if someone messes with my guys, that I'm not talking to them anymore. Yeah, they didn't show me that level of respect. So again, I felt very disrespected, and that then also, I think, really hurt me, because it's like I'd been really betrayed by that. Like, obviously Rafa and that, like, never smoked or drank or anything like that. But like the big centre back that I had, who was again my guy, they were all hanging out with him, all laughing and joking. I'm like what? And then me and him kind of made up towards the end of the year. He basically came up to me and apologised, and we were cool, and it was done. But that still hurt. That really, I think, dented my confidence, which I didn't realise. I'm getting my self-image and all that sort of stuff. And again, I still got back with my girlfriend at the time. The whole thing about that situation, and I've had conversations with her in the last couple of years where she's kind of owned everything, and she's apologised and basically was like, "You were amazing. I didn't really realise what I had." And again, the forgiveness is there. Like, there's no negativity towards her at all. She's an amazing human being. But at the time, it really affected me because I just wanted some love. Yeah. And I thought I had it, but that wasn't really what love was, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So the themes are continuing throughout. So primary school, secondary school, university, everything that you've discussed, it's the same kind of thing, the way you were feeling, the people pleasing, wanting love, validation. So you're coming to the end of your university career, and then what? Time to come home, stay there a bit longer?
Came out from America, kind of my university messed up my visa application, and basically said when I graduated, you basically had 2 weeks to leave the country because they messed it up in the time difference. So I basically had to come home. When I came home, basically broke up with the girlfriend at the airport, I remember literally like the night before I left, we were in a hotel.
Like movie style?
Yeah, movie style. So literally the last night, we were there in a hotel right by the airport. Some of my dad was there, but he was like in the hotel with my brothers, I think. So me and her had like this final night together. Really sad when I think about it. Like, really, really sad. And then we broke up and that was it. I then basically came home and was clearly very depressed and hadn't processed it. Like I still had stuff in storage in America, so bank accounts, hadn't really dealt with anything really. I just sat in my room playing computer games. Literally, I'd go to the gym, then play computer games, and that was it. Like, wouldn't open the curtains. And then one day, mum was just like, you need to get a job. And I was just like, oh, whatever.
How long was this? How long were you
probably
sat?
6 months. 6 months. Just not okay. She need to get a job. So I was like, okay. So basically, I saw the Virgin Active were applying, were hiring. So I basically went there as a fitness coach, smashed that. So I did 6 months of that. And because basically at Virgin Active at the time, when you signed up, a coach would write you a program. And because I was writing people such good programs, people then weren't having personal training.
Okay.
So the personal training manager came up to me and said, you basically have to become a personal trainer or we're going to get rid of you because you're putting PTs out of business because no one's signing. Because like, well, because every 6 months they get a new program. Because people were just waiting to see me every 6 months for me to write them a new program, so they didn't need a PT. Yeah. So I'd be writing like 5-day training splits.
It's not very good for them.
No, it's not good for them. Yeah, exactly. So I said, you've got to be a PT. So okay, whatever. I remember the very first training session I had was with a lady called Heidi. And basically, I felt like I robbed her money. Okay. I had no idea what I was doing.
Were you a rep counter?
Honestly, I felt so bad. And I hated the feeling of how I felt. I felt embarrassed. I felt like I'd stolen her money. And I made a promise to myself that I'd never let myself feel like this again. So then I threw myself. I spoke to two of the top coaches that were there at the time and said, what books can you recommend? They recommended books. I read the books. I spent every single paycheck I had for the first 6 months as a personal trainer studying, going on courses. Yeah. So I then very quickly became one of the top coaches there because I am not ever feeling like that again. So I was getting really good results with clients, etc., etc., etc. And then one of my mentors at the time ended up leaving to go and work at one of the top personal training companies in the country, which just so happened to be in Nottingham. And then he then said to the owner of that, listen, this guy's literally been in the industry for 6 months. His progress is insane. Take him on. They didn't want me there. The owner did not want me there. Made it very clear, I do not want him, but I want you. So if that's the deal, okay. So I then got this job based on that. Yep. I was paid for 6 months, paid half the amount of money that everyone else there was. And after 6 months, it was meant to change. I waited 9 to 10 months until I even confronted him about increasing my pay because I didn't feel good enough. Again, didn't feel worthy enough. And I kept getting transformations to prove myself. I get some ridiculous transformations with people I had no right to get transformations with. And he still wouldn't give me a pay rise. And just the whole thing was just, I didn't feel like I belonged. And again, it's the story of my life. It didn't feel like I belonged. I was trying to prove myself. And then he ended up leaving because basically he was just not, his values and morals didn't line up with me. He said some hurtful stuff to me. I was like, I'm done with this. So then I ended up leaving and going to another place, setting up on my own, so working with another company, but setting up by myself. And this time I was modelling. So I'd stepped on stage, I'd done the whole competition thing, and because of that, I'd fallen into modelling.
Why did you decide to go down the competition route? Why bodybuilding?
So again, everyone at the gym was bodybuilding. I'm glad you brought that up. So everyone at the gym was bodybuilding at the time. So because everyone at the gym was bodybuilding, I decided I need to be a bodybuilder. To fit in, I need to be a bodybuilder. So that's what I did.
People pleasing, fitting in, don't want to stick out.
So I didn't want to do it. I had no intention. I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then completely fell into the modelling situation as well. So basically what you then have is this guy that looks a certain way with this huge ego. Because now I was getting women, like literally like a magnet drawn to me because I was a model. I literally had just people flocking to me, big heads at that time. That's the reality of it. And I was thriving off it. My ego was massive. But the problem was I still hated myself. I absolutely at my core hated myself. And that was the problem. Like, I wanted love. I wanted people to like me. But whenever anyone got close, I'd push them away because I fundamentally hated everything about me. So yes, you'd see me on the magazines, and yes, I'd be going on dates and telling everyone I was a model. Yeah. But I hated myself. I absolutely hated it. And whenever anyone got close to me, I had to push them away because I couldn't handle it. It's what I was desperate for. I built up such a strong wall, I just couldn't handle it.
And at this point, did you let anyone get close to you, or is it literally just volume of women for a short amount of time?
Volume of women. The one person that was at the time, I'm not going to mention her name, but she was Miss Derby at the time. Amazing human, like genuinely, like she's a primary school teacher, just a lovely human. And again, wasn't great in that relationship. I fully admit that. I ended up breaking up with her by saying something along the lines of, I'm too good for you. Like, that was basically what came up, the exact words that came out of my mouth. That's the kind of guy I was at that time. And again, I said I was too good for her. That couldn't be any further from the truth. She was too good for me. I didn't want her to realise what a loser I was. So I basically had to push her away. And that hurt because, again, she's a really nice person. Like, I remember at the time I was in the bodybuilding, she basically found a really rare edition of a book. You could not buy this book anywhere. It was sold out. It was out of print. For Christmas, she bought me that book. I have no idea to this day how she found it. She said she basically contacted some rare dealer person and managed to get it. I could not believe she had it. And bizarre to me. But again, I just had to push her away. And again, that then kind of escalated. It all comes back to that thing of when I was younger with that girl.
So you don't feel good enough within yourself, and that manifests in every single part of your life.
Every single part. Yep.
Cool. So you're still personal training. You've gone to another place.
Yep.
How's that going for you at this point?
Same patterns. Again, literally same patterns, like me, just in a different location. So that's what I say to people all the time. No matter what's going on in life, you're still you. Like, you're still going to be with yourself. So I was still with myself, whether it was in America, whether it was in secondary school, whether I worked at the first personal training company, the second person, I was still me. So I just basically moved my problems to a new location.
Yep.
And again, at the time with my modelling, I'd ended up going to this modelling event and ended up meeting this girl. She was a latex model. And because I was so desperate, and I was so easily manipulated, I remember I saw her and I was with my friend at the time. I looked at her and I said, I'm going to marry that girl. Knew nothing about her, just purely on how she looked. I'm going to marry that girl. And then that evening, we were queuing up for drinks. I didn't drink this time, so I stopped drinking. But I had loads of beer tokens and she was queuing up for these tokens. So I just went and started a conversation with her, and that was it. I completely my head rolled off, down a hill, creating this image, because she told me all the stuff I needed to hear.
Yeah.
That I bought to hook, line, and sinker. So I ended up sleeping with her that night, slept with her the night after. The whole weekend that we were at this thing, literally we were inseparable. And literally I was like, I love this girl. I'm
2 days.
2 days. I'm head over heels. I'm in love with this girl.
Okay.
And she then told me a story about stuff that happened in her life, like the sob story. And again, me being the savior, basically trying to save everyone else but myself. Oh, let me save you, completely ignoring myself. I was then like, right, I'm going to protect you. I'm going to do everything I can. I had a great place I was living at the time. I got rid of that. I bought her as a flat. Basically moved her in with me. Didn't know anything about it.
So you got rid of everything that was going
well. Everything was going well.
And good.
Yeah, stable.
Got rid
just
of
stable. Yeah, got rid of it for her. I didn't really know. And here's the thing with this, again, I don't want anything negative towards her in the slightest, but that person I met that weekend, I never saw again. I never ever saw her again. She basically sold me this lie, and I basically fell for a hook, line, and sinker. I never saw that version of her again.
Do you think she sold you a lie, or do you think you saw what you wanted to see?
Both.
Okay.
It wouldn't say she sold me a lie, but it wouldn't take her much. But then I created this story in my head, this narrative. But basically, she gave me the ammunition for it, but it didn't take much to load it up. And then, long story short, she was dealing with her own mental health issues. She had her own struggles, her own demons. And I knew nothing about mental health at the time, nothing at all. And it didn't end well. Long story short, she ended up having a knife to my throat in the kitchen. I ended up having to call the police. She ended up getting arrested. And that was kind of that. And that was very traumatic for me, the ending of that.
And it just ended like that?
Did
you continue to speak to her? Or was that
do you know what? I'm going to say I'm sure I slept with her maybe 2 times after that.
Okay.
But I had to go pick some stuff up off her. I think I slept with her.
But yeah, still then.
Yeah, still then. But then that was a big thing for me, because I then lost everything, and that's when I spiraled. Well, no, I was still holding on at the time, still holding on. So again, I did what every guy does in that situation. We're emotionally in a really weak place. I then jumped in with the next girl. So then threw everything into this next relationship. Put all my insecurities and all my issues. So again, if people listen to this is the first episode. The episode I did last week on my Thursday Thoughts about projecting your issues onto other people. That's literally what I did.
Yeah.
So I jumped straight into this relationship with this other girl who lived miles away again. And then she could see kind of how I was, and then I was very heavily manipulated in that relationship as well. And then when that relationship ended, that's when my head rolled off. And I really hit rock bottom. I was so in such a bad place then that I ended up going to her parents' wedding. I hadn't been with her for 4 or 5 months. So it was in Santorini. So I paid for these flights to go to Santorini.
To go to your
ex-girlfriend's parents' wedding. Because in my head, I thought I could get her back still.
That is some extreme length.
That's where my head's at, yeah. And literally, and every opportunity, I was trying to convince her to still be with me. I look back now, and it was very sad.
Yeah.
Very sad.
And, okay, so there's these big events. That's a big thing. How were you day to day? How is Daniel going through life on a day-to-day basis?
What, when I was struggling?
Yeah.
Just existing. Again, I had this burning rage of anger inside me. The only way I can describe it is that when I was doing sessions with clients, I had a burning fire inside me. And all it was saying was that voice in my head was saying to the clients, in my head, you are keeping me awake. All I want to do is sleep, and you are keeping me awake. Because remember with this session with clients, and then I'd be almost verbal diarrhea to these clients about all my problems. Bearing in mind, they're coming to me, they're paying me money to train them, and I would then be putting my problems onto them.
Get using them as like a free therapist.
Yeah, essentially.
Like
Yeah. So again, I ended up destroying my business.
Yeah.
I was getting into loads of debt because I was losing clients, getting into loads of debt. And I basically just keep my head above water, but I wasn't really. I was drowning, slowly drowning. And I was wearing this mask, pretending to be okay, still doing photo shoots on my social media. I was posting all this stuff about my life was amazing. Even when I was in Santorini, like posting these photos, not telling people that actually I was at my ex-girlfriend's parents' wedding. There's a whole story behind that as well, because it's not quite that simple, because her sister was really struggling with her mental health, and I was actually really helping her at that time. I knew nothing about mental health, but if it wasn't for me, that wedding wouldn't have gone ahead, because I was the one that got her sister on the plane through FaceTime, because she was really struggling with her anxiety at the time, and for whatever reason she gravitated towards me. Still talk to her to this day, like an amazing human, and hold nothing against anyone in that situation. Like, this is all me. Like, again, as you said before, like, as I say, she manipulated me. I don't think she did. I think she was lost herself, and I was just there. I was like, listen, you've got a guy that's just gonna literally, they're like a lost dog. They ain't going nowhere. They're just constantly gonna be there. And again, he's like an emotional support bag. So anytime you're struggling, he'll just come and you can just unload on him, and he's just like a little like puppy boy. So I don't hold anything against her. It's all on me, 100% on me. Like this whole thing, which is the hardest thing for me to admit. All this stuff happened because of me. I made it happen. I allowed it to happen because I wasn't in a good headspace. And again, for this entire time, when I was struggling mentally, is when basically my sex addiction started. So basically, the only thing, because I wasn't drinking, wasn't doing drugs, but that's what most people do. They use these substances to escape. Pardon? An outlet. An outlet, yeah, to escape. And that's basically what I was using. So I basically wasn't feeling anything. I was numb to the world. So basically I then started to use sex as a form of self-abuse, essentially. And that's what it was. Like one day I remember that I was sleeping with 5 girls on the same day. And again, that sounds like, oh yeah, lad. No, it wasn't at all. Like it was a form of self-abuse. Like genuinely, like put my body through that. Because again, I was having to smash Viagra to get through that whole situation. Like it wasn't nice. I remember one situation, I kicked a girl out. She had to get a train ticket. She had no money. I just kicked her out because the other girl was coming in. Got it all come flashing back. Yeah, it's awful. And I just remember like just such a lost, desperate human. And I was then there using, again, hurt people. So I was just there using these women's body for my pleasure, for what I wanted to do. And everything was all consensual, there's nothing like that. But like the stuff I'm kind of into, like I was just taking out my anger, my frustration on these people. And obviously they were getting stuff out of it as well, don't get me wrong. But I'd be leading a lot of them on. Yeah. I'd be leading a lot of them on thinking, telling them that I wanted more, doing this. Knew exactly what I was doing. I was fully manipulating them. Knowing if I told them certain sentences and certain things, that I could just literally sleep with them while I found someone better. And basically at one point, the most girls I had juggling was like 7. But again, it stopped me thinking. And this only just come to me. It stopped me thinking. Distraction. So rather than being sat there in my flat by myself, I'd be texting 7 girls. Now obviously with that comes problems because you forget who said what to and blah, 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 blah. But like, so.
How was that?
Yeah, not great. But again, I remember like, so people talk about, sex addiction, like, how do you get addicted? Like, I remember literally at one point waking up, texting someone like 11, 12 o'clock at night and driving to London to sleep with someone.
Wow.
Literally middle of the night to drive to sleep with someone in London and then coming back. So let's be honest, even if it lasted an hour, that's a long journey. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Do you know what I mean? That's a long drive for what? And because again, that wasn't what I was after. I wasn't after like this long. I literally was there to have sex. Yeah. So I literally. Let's go. Like that's it. Like it wasn't like a long intimate thing I was after. It's like I've got a need. It needs scratching. So I drive there. It's literally like driving to the pub, driving to London to have a pint and then come back again. That's literally what the equivalent was.
And how long did this phase go on for you? Essentially abusing your body and your mind.
No idea. I'll say about the whole sex thing. I don't think it lasted long, so it wasn't sustainable. My body just physically couldn't handle it. And then that's when I kind of like metaphorically fell off a cliff. So I'd say maybe 2 months, 3 months of sex stuff, maybe. But mentally, where I was tormenting myself, you probably about 8 months, 6 to 8 months. And again, just gradually got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's like that my entire life can be summarised with a metaphor, which I use quite a lot on the podcast as well, is about you stick a frog in boiling water, it'll jump out. Stick a frog in cold water and slowly turn the temperature up, it'll be boiled alive. Yeah. That's how my life was. My life was slowly having the heat turned up. And inside my head, the voice was getting louder, more malicious, more horrible, like just disgusting. Yeah, I didn't realise because it was just slowly being turned up.
Did you have any awareness? That you were slowly deteriorating mentally and that you were sabotaging your life over and over again? Or did you think that life was doing that to you? Did you have any awareness of your part to play at this time?
No. So again, it was everyone else's fault. It was the girl that tried to kill me's fault. It was my ex. It was everyone's fault. Everyone's fault but mine. Like I was a victim. I was the victim. This is not fair. Why is this happening to me? Blah, blah, blah. And I remember that the one thing I kept saying to myself is, like, before I would go to bed, I remember the feeling of feeling so just like not wanting to wake up. And I'd have this feeling in my stomach of like, one day I'll wake up and it'll be okay. I was like literally
You
living in
thought
hope.
you'd
Just
wake
thought
up
I'll be okay. It's a phase. I'll be fine. I'll snap out of it. But I had no recollection. And I remember before this point, I'd been to a mindfulness course.
Okay.
It's like a year before when I was working at the first gym. So I knew like mindfulness practices. And I remember sometimes trying to practice meditation. I'd do it for 5 minutes and I'm like, this is rubbish. So in my head, I think deep down, somewhere in me was like, you are not okay. And somebody was like, go meditate. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to go meditate. And I'd sit down and I'd be like, what the hell am I doing here? Like, I'd be like, this is rubbish. And I'd stop. So I think something within me, that little speck of light was like trying to clutch at straws and do something. And fundamentally, if it wasn't for the gym, I would not be here. That fact. Like, because at that time, the gym was still my routine. It's still my thing. So in my head, it's like, I just have to go to the gym. And if I hadn't gone to the gym, actually got out of the house, I'm telling you, I wouldn't be here. Hands down, I would not be here.
And at any point, did that feeling of not wanting to be here progress into any stronger thoughts, or was it always just, I don't really want to be here, but one day I'll get better?
Like I said, I didn't want to wake up. I never actively planned to not be here, so let's put it that way. But the thought crossed my mind of like I literally remember driving my car and being like, if I just like veered it into a cliff or like the lorry or something, it'd be fine. So I had a little thought, but again, never entertained them. So I'd have little moments like that, or people would be better if I wasn't here, but I'd never like planned anything. It was nothing like that. It was just like a thought that was, oh yeah, it's a great idea. And then I just kind of left it there. But for me, it was just that thing of like, just not wanting to wake up. That was literally, I'd go to sleep and be like, I don't care if I don't wake up. I'm not bothered. And when I did wake up, it honestly would take me like 2 hours to wake up, like to get out of bed, drag myself out of bed, get in the shower, and just like, it was just a struggle. I remember my flat at the time was an absolute joke. And again, it blows my mind the amount of women that came round. The amount of women that came round and saw how I was living, and at no point did anyone question how I was, because I'm not talking about like it was dirty, like a typical lad. It was like a homeless person was living there. Like it was really bad. And I was just like, I can't even. No one even stopped to question. Like,
but do you think knowing what you know now, and we'll come on to obviously where you're at now, knowing what you know now about energy and vibrations and stuff like that, do you just potentially think that you were attracting people on that same wavelength as you, on that same vibration, and actually they were probably not okay, this demographic of women that you were
they definitely weren't okay. They definitely
and
weren't
therefore
okay.
They probably didn't even notice that either.
And again, that's so possible with some of the stuff that we were doing. There's no way that they were okay. Like, and that's the thing. It's like we were both using each other to get our needs met. And like I said, both on a low vibrational thing. Because again, let's be honest, no one with any awareness and any, from my words, any awareness would have entertained me. They just wouldn't have done. Like, if you'd have seen me at that point, you would literally walked into my house and been like, hell no. You mean hell no? And the thing for me that sorted it all for me was a girl. She wasn't a girl. She was a woman. She was a few years older than me, and she saw something in me that I hadn't seen myself. And she was really like professional job, like had a life together. Essentially, had her own house, like really successful, like hype in the corporate world. And then she was one of the girls I was sleeping with at the time. The number of them, and then basically I just sacked her off one day and just stopped messaging her back. And then
because she had other people.
It wasn't deliberate. Like she was great.
She was one of many.
She was one of many. And then literally, I remember her messaging me, being like, "Oh, so I'm done with you." And I was like, "What do you mean you are done with me?" Like I remember thinking, "Who the hell do you think you are?"
How did Daniel's ego deal with that?
I was like, "What do you mean?" And literally, I was feeling like, "You're done with me." But she was the only person that said that to me. And she went, like, "I don't know where your head's at, but I need the commitment. You're either in or you're out." And because she like challenged me, I was like, I'm in. So I cut everyone else off, and that's how I got into a relationship with her. And again, she genuinely was one of two people that helped save me. They're both called Sarah, which is really interesting. That genuinely helped save me at a time when I wasn't okay. And without those two in my life, I don't know where I'd be. But that for me was just that beacon of hope of this person sees something in me that I don't see in myself. And I look at levels, like let's just say, like from a football analogy, she was in the Premier League and I was like League 2. And what she did was she helped drag me to the Premier League. The problem was, but the reason my relationship ended, for a number of reasons, apart from me being an absolute arsehole, we can get to that in a second, is that I wanted Champions League. I wanted to go to the World Cup, but she was kind of happy in the Premier League. So basically what happened was I kind of found myself again, and then that drive came, and then she was happy where she was, which she had every right to. Her life was amazing, but I just wanted more. But again, there's no excuse for how I treated her and all that sort of stuff, but we can get into that as well. So
cool. So at this point, that's quite a turning point. So you've got rid of all these other women potentially temporarily. You've committed to one person. You touched on other Sarah. So at this point, you're back working at the pub.
So at this point, I'd realised that I wasn't okay. I didn't know what to do about it, but I knew I'd isolated myself. So I went back to work at the place I worked at when I was 18. So bearing in mind at this point, I was a successful model. I had my own business, earning good money, like on paper my life was amazing. So then my ego to then go back to the place I was working at, I was 18. I was like, it took a battering. But when I went there, my whole premise was, I'm just going to go here and keep my head down. Keep my head down, because I used to use this pub and the other place to sleep with people. And what used to happen was, because it was owned by the same people owned it. So I used to work at the restaurant, and every now and again I'd work at the pub, and the chef used to swap and change. And at the restaurant, like, loads of women would come in and out, so I'd be sleeping with loads of women. And then what would happen is that chef would then go to the pub, and he'd then talk to the waiting staff and be like, God, this guy at this place. And basically he would big me up. And basically they would call me
your wingman.
Yeah, but basically they call me a sex pest. That's the word they used for me. That, again, that's the kind of guy that I was at that time. I wasn't a pest, I just sleep with loads of people. But then what happened was, he would then be planting seeds in these girls' minds. So when I went back to the pub, guess what? They were like, well, this guy's not what I thought he was. Do you know what I mean? Because see, we heard a sex pest, you're thinking like, look at this vulture, like this, like, do you know what I mean? Like, look. That wasn't me at all. I was still me at my core. So again, although I was doing all this stuff, I was still me at my core. I had good values, good morals. I was a good person. Like, still a likable character. I was just doing some really questionable things because I wasn't in control of what I was doing, essentially. So the people would be talking to me, and I have no intention of sleeping with them. I'd just be talking normally. But because they'd heard this thing, they'd then want to sleep with me. So what would then happening is, basically these two pubs would basically just be providing me with women to sleep with. It was bizarre. The whole thing was bizarre. But then when I went back there the second time, I was like, no. I'm going there. I'm just going there to just work. And as soon as I got there, this girl Sarah, again, older lady, say older, like in the 40s.
Not an older lady.
No, she basically looked at me, but older compared to me. So at the time I was 28, 29. So she was in maybe
just a lady.
Late 30s or 40. But I mean, like, she wasn't like a young, like 18-year-old that'd been working there. She wasn't like a kid. She was like an adult. And she just looked at me and was just like, you're not okay. Because obviously I'm still playing the big I am, like, do you know, I'm the model, I'm all this. And she's like, you're not okay. And she said, give me a lift home. So I gave her a lift home that evening. And basically the first time I then shared my story, just talked about how I was feeling, and remember crying a little bit. And then it turned out she'd lost her husband. And basically that was it, just talking. So every time I saw her, it just made it a little bit better, just talking. And then I started to find myself a bit more. I made it very clear that I wasn't at this pub to sleep with people, because at this time I had the other Sarah. And I just slowly started to find my feet again, find myself, who I was, and just slowly started to try and figure out what the hell had just happened. Because the more that I started to interact with people, like, it's about putting that, like, fake it till you make it. So I was faking that I was okay behind the bar, like putting these pints and doing these coffees and pretending I was okay. But the more that I was doing that, the more I was like, and talking about it, the more I actually was starting to feel a bit better. And then the more it became apparent to me that I wasn't okay, I was like, right, okay, I need to figure out where this whole thing had come from, if that makes sense. Because, like, I've just wasted a year, 2 years of my life. What the hell has just happened? And that's where my kind of journey changed a bit, to try and figure out what the hell had just happened. But it was in a safe space where there was no expectations of me. At that point, I was very lost in my career as well, because I basically lost all my clients. So I even applied to work at the Royal Mail as a postman. And then I made the decision eventually to leave Nottingham and go work up in Manchester as just a clean, fresh start. So that was kind of where I felt like I needed to be.
Yeah.
But again, I was still with myself.
So at this point, are you taking responsibility and wanting to move forward, or are you still stuck in that victim mindset?
Still victim. Still victim, but I knew I wanted to do something different in my life. I was still complete victim.
So a bit in the middle.
Still in the middle. Like, on the ladder of the journey, I was on the first run.
Okay.
I just put my foot on the ladder, but I was still a victim. Life just happened to me. Life wasn't fair. And any opportunity, I'd be telling people how unfair life was.
Yeah.
So I was taking no responsibility. I just was a bit like, I want to feel better.
Yeah.
What can I do? And that was it.
Okay. So you've moved up to the Northwest. Are same patterns repeating themselves? Yep. Are you're still in a relationship, you've got a new job. What is life looking like at this point?
Well, say still same patterns repeating themselves. Like, yes and no. Like, I was still a lot more in control of what I was doing. Now, again, the stuff that happened at that time, obviously I was up in Manchester away from Sarah that I was going out with at the time. So again, some stuff happened there, which again, that cheated on her, not great. But again, that was just me, old habits. And it's only literally until a couple of years ago that I really realised all these patterns. It was so obvious why I was doing it. Because again, I was lonely, just wanted to... Because again, she was amazing. Like, I look back now at how amazing she was. And again, I've said this to you before, so just people listening to this, like, it's not like she's just hearing this for the first time. Like, one of the most amazing people I've ever met. Like, we never argued in the relationship. She was absolutely incredible. for whatever reason, I just sort of fell out of love with her. But how I treated her is one of the things that until the day that I die, I will regret, because it was despicable, it was disgusting, and it was just me putting my crap onto somebody else that didn't deserve it, if that makes sense. I feel very ashamed still of that. I've dealt with it, so it doesn't bother. Talking about this now, and I'm putting myself back in that energy, I can still feel that, but on a day-to-day basis it doesn't bother me, but it did for a long time. It really, really bothered me, because she didn't deserve that, and it wasn't okay, and it's something that should never have happened. It did happen, but it was not a reflection on her, because I was still very much trying to hold on to this old version of me while creating a new version of me. And again, there's a saying that I say to a lot of people now, it's like you can't serve two masters at once. So essentially you can't have two identities. You're either one or the other, and I was trying to hold on to both, and that's where the conflict was. I was trying to create this new version of myself. I was trying to define myself. I was trying to work on my mindset and do all this stuff, yet still do all the stuff that I was doing that kept me in that bad place in the first place. And that's fundamentally what it was. Like, she provided this real good platform for me to find myself and go on this journey, yet I was still holding on to this old version of me. So the person that ultimately got hurt was her.
Yeah. Okay. So at this point, you're wanting to be Champions League. You're moving up the ladders. You know where you want to go.
Well, but then I didn't know what Champions League was at this point. Like, so
you just know that you want to be up here.
So what point are we talking about now? Like, we can be more specific. We're talking about like towards the end of that relationship, like after it ended, like where we are.
Towards the end of that relationship, because you said that she was a really solid Premier League level
life
level. We're talking about life and winning at life, and you wanted more. How did that, I guess, manifest itself in a relationship? So let's take away what you've just said here about you potentially not being great when you're up in Manchester, but on a day-to-day relationship basis, how you were pushing at this point. You wanted to be more, but you didn't know what that was. How did that work for you?
So at this point, I then moved back to Nottingham again. So moved back, started again, and I was really finding momentum. I really had a clear purpose, passion. I knew exactly where I was going, and she would support me loads, support me so much. But I'd be saying little things, and she'd be saying stuff to me like slow down, calm down, sort of that. So it was almost like putting the brakes on it a bit, and that's not what I wanted to hear at that point. Now, again, I understand now that she was just, again, being mindful, and again, she'd never been self-employed, so she's playing that. So I get it. She had my best interest at heart, 100%. And I still don't even think she knows to this day that that's what she was doing, because I've not spoke to her about it. That wasn't what it was. I just fell out of love with her, and that's my own issues with that. But I was just I basically realised I'd wasted 28 years of my life. And I was like, I need to make up for lost time. And that's fundamentally where I was at. I was like, I need to make up for lost time. Let's go.
You're on a mission.
And I didn't want anyone to put the brakes on me. I didn't want anyone to hold me back. I just need people around me to push me. So whenever she said little things, it was playing on my mind a little bit. And they just added more fuel to the fire. And then that was it. Then they're breaking up.
Okay. So at this point, you're working at a gym in Nottingham?
Yep. What
happens there?
Basically, I went there when I started and said, listen, I've worked with top personal training companies, run my own business, I've got great transformations, you're just a new gym starting out, we've got loads of PTs, but they're not very experienced. So I literally wrote him a letter and said, listen, I can come in and run the personal training for you. And he was like, okay, yeah, cool, awesome. Let me speak to my partner, And in the end, he basically spoke to the PTs that were there, and basically one of them said no. So he said, they're not interested in that, but you can come and work here. So, okay, cool. So again, tail between my legs, like there's no ego involved. So I still was set at the time. I basically I'm just coming in here to work. Head down, literally bump. I knew exactly where I was. I was listening to podcasts at the time. I was reading books. Like, it was very clear my vision, what I wanted to do, what I wanted to create. It's all about the clients, like the client journey. Like everything was just in alignment. So went there, did that, and very, very quickly, because that was when I started there. He basically said, you aren't part of the team. You have to come in, wear all black, so you're not allowed to wear the uniform of the gym. Okay. You've got to wear all black. I don't think you know the story. You've got to wear all black, and in between sessions, you can't be in the gym. You've got to wait in the car for your next client to come. And that was the deal. Okay. So basically, I was not associated with the gym.
But you still agreed to this?
I still agreed to it.
You knew it beforehand?
Yeah, I knew that. I was like, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how good I am.
Okay, so that's my next question. Yeah. What is your headspace? Yeah. Are you taking that on because you don't have any other options?
Yes.
Or are you taking that on because of the potential of what it could be, and you can see where you can grow from this? And it's that, a bit like you said with your history teacher, like, I'm going to prove you wrong. Both.
Okay. I had no other options for number one, but I could see the vision of it. I was like, I'm going to show you. And literally within 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks, I think maybe a week, he basically like, we can see how good you are. you need to come and work here, essentially. So like, yep, cool, that's sound, done. So I went in, carried on, wasn't really talking to anyone, wasn't giving anyone any advice. Like I'm being a PT, I was just doing my own thing, but it was very obvious that I was elite level because I'd worked at two of the top personal training companies in the country. So it doesn't mean big headed.
You're good.
That's just how it was. Good, getting results, bringing clients in, all that sort of stuff. And then from that stage, he was trying to grow the business. He's again a new gym owner, never run a gym before. He has a bit of turmoil with stuff with his staff members, and basically got to a point after I think maybe I was there for maybe a year or so, whatever it was, maybe around that sort of time. The PTs would come in, they'd leave, come in and leave. There's only me and another PT that'd been there. There's three of us. One of them then left to go and set up his own gym, which then shot him in the foot. So just me and this girl that were working there. She was literally just qualified as a PT, and then me. And he kept getting PTs in, churning through. And it made the gym look bad. It made us look bad. So I basically went back to him again and said, listen, let me just remake this proposition to you. Let me take care of the personal training for you. Like, you just worry about building this gym up because it's not doing great at the minute. It's just starting out. You focus on that. I'll deal with the personal trainers. You still will get your money. Like, don't worry about the rest of it. You'll get paid from every single personal trainer like you're doing now, but I will hire them and I get my own cut by how I do this. And he went, yep, cool, perfect. And that's when the Palm Life Project was born. So the Palm Life Project started out as me on a mission to basically raise the standard of personal training because at the gyms I'd worked at before, there was education, there was none of that there at the minute. I wanted to have a standard of personal training where people came into this gym and were like, wow, these guys are good. And that's what I wanted. And again, just growing my brand within this gym. And at the time, the gym owner said, I can see your design. And he said, I can see your brand overtaking the gym's brand. But as your brand grows, it'll pull the gym up with it. I was like, yeah, hell yeah. Like, yeah, that's the plan. I knew. I know where I'm going with this. So then I hired my first coach. So straight away, he was a great guy, like went through the whole interview process, fantastic. Again, took on the other PT that was already at the gym. She was a bit resistant to it, but she kind of bought in. And then before long, I had 4 coaches. So I had 4 coaches working for me. Everything was absolutely amazing. Life was great. Like, he was getting his money. These coaches were there. So every week every month he's getting regular money in. I was starting to find myself a bit more, have these team meetings. Like, I was like, this is absolutely brilliant. Because I knew my long-term plan was I didn't want to be a personal trainer. I wanted to have a team of coaches that did that. I then wanted to get more into the mindset coaching. So that was my big 5-year plan, to have a team. I wanted 10 coaches. Was my big plan to have 10 coaches that basically just ran the gym, did all that sort of stuff, like to run the PT at the gym, and I just did my mindset coaching. That was it. Or I worked with select few clients. That was what it was. That was my plan. That was where I was all going.
Okay. So how was your relationship with the gym owner at this point?
Amazing. So at the time, like I said, he gave me a massive chance because, again, he didn't owe me anything, and he took a chance on me, took a risk. This guy basically a bit of a journeyman, and he even said, like, you're a bit of a journeyman. I said, yeah, but I'm looking for a place to make my home. That's the words that I used. So he then bought into that. He says, yep, I can see that 100%. So and then said, so I owed him a lot. And me and him would have really deep chats about stuff. And again, I almost felt like a bit of a father figure. And again, I said this to him multiple times. Like, he'd say stuff to me, and it was like how a father would, like, almost like towing the line of stuff. I was like, and I really looked up to him because he gave me this chance, and I felt this big obligation to, like, help the gym grow and thrive and do all this sort of stuff. So the relationship was great. Like, good communication. We trained together. Everything was good. Like, there was no issues, no worries. Like, things were going amazing. So yeah.
And was there anything that happened there that then knocked that off course?
I knew we were going to go here. How much of this how much do you want me to go into here?
It's your podcast.
Oh, great. So I'm just going to roll with it, see what happens. So not spoke about this publicly, so let's see where this goes. So at this stage, I think I had 5 coaches that I'd got, and basically you, actually at the time didn't know who you were, I basically suggested to your ex-partner about working in the gym. So I had actually worked with him at Virgin Active. The first place I'd worked at, he'd worked there. So back in the day when I was first starting out personal training, he'd worked there. Didn't really get on with him at all at this time at the gym. But thought, listen, give the guy a chance, because one of the mentors I'd said I'd had early on, obviously one of them was the guy that got me into the main gym that I'd worked at. But then the other one had actually mentored this guy. So I was like, okay, like I know this guy from 6 years ago. Like, I'm not going to judge this guy from who I remember then. So anyway, sat down next to him and had the interview with him. And yeah, he was saying all the right stuff. A little voice inside of me was saying, this doesn't feel right. But I was like, I'm judging this guy on something that happened 6 years ago. Like, he's saying all the right stuff. He's bought into this mission. Because my plan was to bring him in and him being a head coach. That's what, because he had experience. I was like, you're going to come in, you're going to be amazing, you're going to be a head coach. Cool, perfect. The long story short, that's not how it turned out in the slightest. A lot of stuff had kicked off. he basically wasn't doing anything that I told him to do. For example, like as part of signing up with the Prime Life Project, when the client signs up, they get a protein shaker, they get a logbook, they get access to free protein shakes, they have access to my library. So for those of you that remember the old podcast set up with the books behind me, that was my library. So clients had access to my library for free. So I created this really great sort of environment, and he wasn't doing any of that. So I'm like, I want you to train these coaches up, but you're not actually doing what I say you're going to do. And then I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't really want to go into it that much. But fundamentally, he has his own issues and his own demons, which involve you, which is Chris Gaines, your ex-partner. He then wanted you to work with me, which I then did. His whole thing behind that was for you to basically give him my information, which for anyone that knew the Prime Life Project at the time, every week we had team meetings. So I would happily give information out there. And then he basically got it into his head that me and Katie were sleeping together. Now, I basically helped Katie massively with her mental health because of certain stuff that's going on. I'm not going to go into detail about how much he did or did not play into that. And basically what happened was Katie basically got herself into a really good place mentally, which then freed her from his grasp, let's say. And then his retaliation to that was that we were sleeping together. And he basically went on a massive mission to try and prove that me and Katie were sleeping together, when that wasn't the case. All that had happened was that Katie had helped me with my... for those who've been following me for a long time, basically once I have a mental health summit. So basically get a load of speakers coming in talking about men's mental health or mental health in general. And I thought you basically book in this room, book the speakers, and you crack on. And Kate was like, what about insurance? What about this? I was like, what the hell are you on about? So Kate was like, I'll take care of that for you. Like, you've helped me, let me help you with this. I was like, cool. So basically every Saturday, Kate would come to my office. So bear in mind, the office was on the gym, so at the gym, like the staff room was outside the door. I had a massive window that overlooked the gym, which I built this office myself, overlooking the gym. So it wasn't exactly a private place, really. So Kate would come in and basically would work. We'd study, we'd work to build this thing together, and basically got in his head that basically we were sleeping together. He would not get it out of his head. So long story short, I caught him going through my office on 3 separate occasions with a motion sensor camera that I had, rummaging through my stuff, so I fired him. Then off the back of that, the gym owner, I showed the gym owner the footage. The gym owner said, that is unacceptable. I was like, okay. He says, do what we need to do? So I did what I needed to do, and I fired him. The next day or the day after, the gym owner had then rehired him to work for the gym. Now, a bit of a caveat to this, I'm going to take it back a step. When I originally hired this guy, the gym owner had basically voiced his concerns about how weird he was and basically asked if I made a mistake. And I said, no, he's good. My coaches, they've been with me for a very long time, very good friends of mine now, great tight-knit bunch. He'd offended some of them, making inappropriate comments, jokes, etc., etc., etc. And I was again vouching for him, saying he's going to come good, he's fine. So I defended this guy and basically stuck my neck out for him. For the gym owner to then hire him, after that, my coaches were furious because my coaches at this point, bearing in mind this guy had basically lied about Katie, about who she was, basically turned around and said like that she was this horrible person. And again, if anyone, don't use the word, but a certain type of person, the way they work is they will basically isolate people. So basically he'd created you to be a certain thing, so then no one in the gym would talk to you because you've got a resting bitch face. So no one talked to you. None of my coaches talked to you because everyone, the narrative was that you're a horrible person. And when I first sat down, I was like, this is not the person you've been made out to be. And then my coaches very quickly realised that as well. So my coaches then bought into you because they saw who you were and they saw that there'd been this lie around you. So when he then got rehired, the coaches were furious about it. And
why did he get rehired?
So what was the actual reason? I can't remember what the official. Can you remember what the official reason was? I can't remember what the official reason was.
I don't think there ever was an official reason. But at the end of the day, that's his business. That is up to him.
Yeah.
However, I think there was potentially, from things that had happened beforehand that you have not yet touched on, there was a breakdown between you two of trust and communication.
Yeah. So I was going to tie that in after but I'll go back to that. So I'll come back to that because I'll finish off with the story and I'll tie in why I think the whole way ended that it did. And then essentially this whole sort of narrative was still going on. Me and Kate were sleeping together. He was convinced that we were. And at this point, as Kate said, the gym owner and me, our relationship kind of broken down at this point. There'd been a time, again, long before Katie, where I basically ended up sleeping with a member of his staff. And again, patterns repeating themselves. That was not a great thing for me to get into. He then ended up having to fire her, which he then, I think, held against me. And after he'd fired her and we'd stopped sleeping together, I then carried on sleeping with her. So he'd fired her, I carried on sleeping with her. And I do not remember this at all, but in the conversations that ensued before the decision for me to leave the gym that I made, I'll talk about in a second, happened, me and him had a sit down chat, and he said, I don't trust you. He said, I don't trust you because when I got rid of this person, I knew that you were still sleeping together, and I asked you if you were still sleeping together, and you said no. I cannot remember ever saying that. But my words to him were, I can't remember that. However, with the headspace that I was in, if you had asked me, 100%, I would have lied to your face because I didn't want to hear what you had to say. Because again, it's like when a dad's telling you off, you don't want to hear it. I knew what he was going to tell me. I didn't want to hear it, so I lied 100%. But in my head, I'm like, I've just shown you footage of a guy rummaging through my office, and you're taking his side, and you're saying you trust him over me. So I then couldn't get over that. Now I look back at the bigger picture of this, and I take my responsibility for this. By the way, I've taken full responsibility for my part I played in this, because what fundamentally happened was the gym was struggling, my business was booming. At this point, my business was booming, absolutely booming. I could have and should have done more to support the gym and support him like I did at the start. That is 100% on me, and I've taken complete ownership of that. However, in my head, it was like I was doing what I said I was going to do, and I was bringing in money each month and growing my business and my brand. I had no interest in screwing him over. I was just cracking on doing what I was doing. But I think he started being his bonnet from the guy previously who had left to set up his own gym and thought that I was going to do that. I was happy. I had no intention. I literally was living life, but I could have been more supportive. I should have been more supportive. And I can now see why he basically made the decision that he made. So fundamentally, I've said to him, it's either him or me that's got to go. And he said that he was hiring him still, and that was it. So then I made the decision to leave. I then told my coaches, listen, you owe me nothing. Now again, going into, I looked after those coaches. Financially, I didn't ask for anything in return from them, but I always looked after them. The whole thing was looking after them. That's my number one concern. But I said to them, you owe me nothing. This is your livelihood, this is your decision. And because of what happened, morally and ethically, I could not stay. The conversation went, it was me or him. So basically, I said, you need to get rid of him. He said, no, he's still staying here. And he says, I then want to take back control of the personal training. So he never said I had to go. He basically said that I'm now in charge of the personal training, so you now work for me.
You chose to leave.
So he knew full well that I was going to leave. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gone. Like, I'm not working under you. Like, hell no. I then told my coaches, listen, you owe me nothing, but this is my decision. I'm leaving. Like, ethically, morally, this does not align with me. How someone can stand by this, knowing full well that I'm innocent in this whole situation, in the sense of I've not done anything wrong. This person's trying to drag my name through the dirt, playing the victim, etc., 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 etc. He didn't have conversations with you, and I've got video evidence of this stuff. Bearing in mind that I'd done so much stuff for this guy that I still have on email, that I've still got on text message. I did so much to go above and beyond for this guy to help him and his career and him mentally, all this stuff. For this to be the outcome, I was like, I'm out. Then all my coaches decided to leave. Apart from one, all my coaches decided to leave, which he was not expecting. And for me, that was great. But then I felt a lot of pressure on me to kind of then do something with that. But for me, the whole situation, it still hurts a lot because I basically built my whole brand there. I had no intention of leaving. I love that place. And like I said, I saw him as a father figure, and for him to say they didn't trust me, and as a fully grown man to essentially wait 2 years to confront me and tell me he didn't trusted me, that hurts. You've waited 3 years, 2 years, whatever it was, of not trusting me, letting me carry on doing what I'm doing, and you've not confronted me. You've waited for this thing to happen for you to tell me you don't trust me. Like, why didn't you have this out of me? Why didn't you have the ball? You are 15 years older than me. Why do you not have the balls to say you don't trust me? After all the stuff that we've done, I've kept my promise. Every month you're getting all this money. I'm about to hire another coach for you. Like, this is happening. Like, you're getting money for nothing. Like, all you got to do is keep the gym open, and you're getting all this money. The reputation's growing. Like, people know this is a good brand, and you don't trust me. And this is how you decide. This is how you're acting. And that hurt for me. So again, for me, the last thing I said to him was, I hope the gym does well. And I do. Like, this day, I hope the gym stays open. I've reflected on it. He had his own issues. He had his own thing. I just don't think I don't expect all the coaches to leave. I basically think that he was kind of just trying to jump on my hype. Expect me to go. He keeps personal trainers, and he just carries on making all the money, and life goes on. Not realizing the stuff I'd done for the coaches behind the scenes that no one knew about because I don't want to talk about it. It's no one's business. Like, it's like when you do charity work. I don't do charity work to tell people to do charity work. I just do it. And he hadn't seen the stuff that I'd done because I didn't talk about it. So they were loyal to me, which is why they left. That was that. And that's the first time I've spoken about it. And again, it still to this day hurts. And it hurts because I love that place. I love that building. I built that office as my home. And again, it's a lot of the grief that goes behind it. And I didn't realize I was suffering from grief. I had an episode on a podcast where, I can't remember what episode it was. Can you find it for me, Mikey? The spiritual, Jeanette, that's it, Jeanette, the spiritual one. I'm not sure what episode number that was, but I was recording here at Katie's house, and she basically said I was grieving. Off air, I think it was. She basically said to me that you're grieving here. I said, well, no one's died. And she went, no, but it's the loss of an idea. The loss of a breakdown, the loss of a friendship, the loss of a relationship. Because again, me and Matt, I thought we were close, we were tight. But again, I genuinely take my responsibility for that. I let that relationship get to that point. I say that's more on him than me, because again, if he's struggling, or he was struggling, whatever the situation was, and I wasn't, I should have helped him more. So I take my responsibility for that and letting it get to that stage. So that's where I held a little bit of guilt for what happened. Yep. Because it's like, he should never have been at the stage where when that happened, I showed him that video, there was any doubt in his mind that he backs me. So that's then on me. Yeah. And that was hard for me to actually accept that I had done something that had led someone to not trust me. And although I'd owned it to his face, and I said, yeah, I did lie to your face. There's nothing more I can do to that. I can't go back and change it. And then explain why. For it to get to that stage, that's on me.
So there's been several points of your life up until this point where almost you have to start again. But it's up until this point, it's because of your own doing. You've self-sabotaged. You've not been in a good place mentally. This time, you're mentally in a good place. So this happens pretty much just after you did the last podcast with Mikey, where you were, if you listen to the end of that podcast, you're like, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. But on this occasion, you lose your home, for want of a better phrase, and you lose it through, okay, you've taken some responsibility, but it's not in the same manner as all the other times. How did that hit you, and what did you do?
It hit me hard, but not for the first 2 months, because I had to make sure the coaches were all okay. So speaking with the coaches, what are their plans, what they're doing, help them all set up online, do their thing. We started team meetings. So they came here, we did team meetings. So I was doing everything I can to keep things normal, keep things moving forward for them, supporting them, helping them, etc., etc., etc. But I didn't deal with it well at all. At all. It's the worst I've ever felt, apart from when I was actually depressed. I would still say that I was depressed, just not as bad as what I was. I genuinely was depressed, but I was aware of what was going on. So I had my tools in place, and I was more able to sort of get stuff together. But it was bad. Like, I genuinely had to drag myself out of bed. As you know, I've been playing computer games for 7 hours a day, literally playing computer games for 7 hours a day, when that's not me. Like, when I was, the last few days when I was at that gym, literally I'd be working non-stop, I'd be reading, like my routine was on fire. Like, I was literally, my life was on fire. Everything was going incredible. But I never missed a podcast. So the podcast every single week came out. So throughout that time, potentially you can see it in my eyes, maybe you can't, like, I was struggling. But I was like, I've got an obligation to help people. So again, I made it more about other people. So I made it about the audience, like you guys, like listening to this. I don't know how many of you guys are still listening to this, so this the hour and a half in, but I made it about the audience still, like adding value to help people. I then made it about the coaches, help them. So that kind of gave me some purpose to get up. If I didn't have the podcast, if I didn't have the coaches, I don't know where I'd have been. Genuinely, because that's where my head was at. Because I had a purpose to actually get out of bed and do something. I just kind of cracked on. Yeah. But it hurt a lot. And again, a lot of the reflection time, and again, a lot of replaying stuff. And yeah, it's like I said, I don't want to give too much light to the individual, because I don't want to give them any airtime. And I've already made it my mission that all they're going to be in my life is when I'm talking on stage in front of thousands of people, I'm just going to be using them as an example. There's going to be a name that I use to express how my life is catapulted forward. So again, it's just turn that negativity into something positive, which is fine. But I don't give too much energy to that. But that played in my mind a lot, replaying that and replaying how. Again, I was doing it to myself. Let's just be completely honest. I was doing it to myself. The situation had happened, it'd been done, but I was still stuck in that slideshow. That slideshow in my head kept replaying. As much as I tried to get myself out of that, kept replaying, and it was only through. So I think you randomly found that person on Instagram, that mentor woman, and you basically said, "Oh, was it you that said it was one of my clients?" I can't remember. It's like, "Oh, like this woman's this webinar." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." So basically, this woman's webinar. Love what she was saying, because at this point I was really deep into mindset stuff. Like the goal when I was at the gym, the Promenade Project, I was literally heavily into mindset coaching. Now I was in schools doing all that jazz, and it was very clear that I was not going to be personal training for a long time. Like I'd only had like 2 one-to-one clients. My online business was booming, absolutely the best it'd ever been. But then I was looking at making the big shift to the mindset stuff. And looking back in hindsight, if I had not left the gym, I probably wouldn't have been where I'm at now, because I needed that kick to just let go of that, because that was time, energy and effort I needed to put into this. So then I watched her live workshop and I was like, I need this person to mentor me. So then I ended up dropping, 5 figures on this mentorship. Is that what it cost? Is that?
Yeah,
5 figures, over 5 figures on this mentorship to work with her for a year. And that gave me the purpose, the direction, and it gave me the missing piece to the jigsaw puzzle that I'd had. Yeah. I had all these pieces to this mindset game and this mental health game. I had all these pieces, but I needed to know the box. I needed someone to show me what was the actual puzzle I was playing. And she showed me the puzzle. And then all the stuff I'd learned, she showed me a lot of stuff, but a lot of the other stuff that she hadn't showed me all fit in nicely to this box. And that gave me the purpose, that gave me the direction, that gave me everything. And that's it. Like my life just then catapulted. Now, I'm not saying once I got this, it worked, because for 7 or 8 months, I was struggling. Yeah. So I would say up until maybe, March this year, would you say?
Yeah, probably early this year.
Early this year, March.
Yeah.
Like I actually felt back to normal. Like so it was almost a year on that I actually felt back to normal. So even though I was going through all this stuff, and this was an interesting stuff for people when you're struggling, you expect to learn this information, this podcast, whatever it is, and have a mentor, whatever it is, and life just to be perfect. But that's not the case. I had this information. I could feel the fire inside me burning again, but mentally I was still struggling. And every day was a battle, and it was a battle, and it was a battle. So literally every day it's like one foot in front of the other. What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And again, at this time I wasn't really going to the gym. I was eating food again, like I gained a bit of weight. But again, that's just how I had to deal with it. And it was what it was. I still had clients to look after. So my priority was looking after my clients. My priority was looking after the coaches. My priority was the podcast. And that's when, again, at the start of the year, I decided to then do 2 podcasts, because that means I could throw myself more into it. And then again, earlier on this year, I then made the decision to basically part ways with the company, the coaches, essentially, because I wanted to move away from the fitness side of stuff and just go all in on this mindset stuff, because I've got the tools now, the knowledge, the application, the real lived experience that I can really help people and change their lives. So that's what I felt like I had to do this Thursday Thoughts podcast, the shorter one, because I've got information that can really help people, and I needed to get that information out there on another level, because these full-length episodes are great. Like I love it when Mikey comes on, or we've got guests, or even like this now. I love this, but for me, I just want to give back. So people, if they're struggling, they've got 10 minutes on the way to work, they can listen to some stuff, usable, actionable information that they can use. But that was really, and it's also the double-edged sword, because when I was depressed the first time, I didn't know I was depressed. Yeah. This second time, I was very, very aware of what was going on, and that the power of awareness is a fucker, because when you become aware of the good, you also become aware of the bad. So when I was struggling, I was very aware that I was struggling. So I actually felt this pain more than I did when I was actually depressed. Although I wasn't as bad, I felt it more. I felt it in every single part of my body. Every day hurt because of it. Like the pain that I felt was excruciating because I was aware of it. So I then also had the tools to help me navigate that. But the pain that every single day, like people, again, Mikey, I don't know how much he knows about this because he saw me throughout this entire time, but like the only person that knew how much I struggled was you, because you're the only person that saw me every day. But I was not myself, and the mask I had to put on for everyone, again, making sure that everyone was looked after, that was what kept me going. But yeah, hard. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't you start crying. You
I'm not
pull yourself together.
No, it like
you pull yourself together. I'm not going.
Yeah, it's not like a standoff of who cries first. So you were doing all these things, you're throwing yourself into this mentorship, you were making sure that you were okay for the podcast, for your clients, you were doing all the things that you needed to do. Can you tell your audience, what did you do for you to get you out of this?
I needed to take responsibility. The first thing I needed to do was take responsibility for this part that I played in it. Yeah. Because again, I'd gone to victim mode. So like I said at the start of this episode, also we started talking about this part of the journey. I've taken my responsibility for my part played in it. That wasn't the case at the start. I was a victim. And I was telling everyone every opportunity how much I've been screwed over. And again, all I was doing was disempowering me and giving them more power. So first thing I had to do was just take responsibility and be like, I talk about this all the time. And I think it's when I did the podcast with Fleet Mall. So again, remember Mikey. And so again, at the time we spoke about radical responsibility, and I really didn't know much about it. But something at that point was like, this is what he was talking about, taking responsibility. So I was like, right, where can I take responsibility for this? And that's what I did. And as soon as I took that responsibility, I then felt a bit more empowered. It took a little bit out of it. Not again, out of all the stuff that happened, I take maybe 3%, 3 to 5%, 10% max responsibility for what happened. The rest is not on me. The rest is on other people, their stories, their narratives that they were trying to push on me. But I'll go with 10. I'll take 10% responsibility, and I've owned that fully. The part I played in that, how it got to that situation wasn't necessarily my responsibility, but leading up to it and all the stuff that led to that happening, I could have prevented that, and I should have done. And I take responsibility for that. So that was a big thing for me. That massively helped taking responsibility. And then the next thing was making a very clear thing of like, well, where do I want to go? And this is then where things really turned around for me, because I had to basically look at the person I was. And it was at this point where I realised I was still holding on to that old identity just a little bit. There was still little traits of me that I didn't like, that I needed to get rid of. I needed to literally let that old version of me die. So I had to reconstruct this new identity, which I did for that mentorship. Like, who do I actually want to be? And that's why, again, people listen to long-term podcasts, I've stopped wearing the hoodie. I needed to be a different person. Like, where I'm going to in my life and who I need to be, I've let go of that old identity completely now. Like, it is gone. Like, it is completely. Every now and again, it rears its head. Yep. But that is not me. I do not wake up. I'm not that person anymore. And I needed that to be the final thing that just cut it, because I still think I had a bit of an ego, which is why, again, I didn't support the gym how I could have done. I was still doing stuff for it, but I could have done more. And with how I am as a person and where I'm at now, had me now been in that situation, I'd have supported the gym loads more, because that's the kind of guy that I am. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
I should have known. I should have asked Matt if he was struggling, if he needed anything. Blah, blah, blah. I didn't. That's, again, I should communicate more as well. So taking responsibility and then having some sort of action plan of where I wanted to go, and then asking myself, well, who do I need to be? Because I want to have this life. And it was very crystal clear for the first time, what do I actually want? Because, again, hitting this rock bottom again, back there, however old I was, 32, 31, 32 years old, whatever, 30, whatever it is, hitting rock bottom again. I was like, this is not happening again. But before, I'd kind of had a rough idea of where I wanted to go. But now I was like, no, I'm getting crystal clear. What's my mission? What's my purpose? Where am I going? And that was it. Once I got that, everything started to line up. I know where I'm going. Because now I've got what I want to have. And the form that I use, I'm going to do a whole workshop on this at some point, the Thursday Thought. You've got to be the person and do the stuff to have those results. So I now had what I wanted to had, but I wasn't that person yet. So I had to ask myself, well, who do I need to become? What kind of person do I need to become to have those results? What kind of things do I need to do to have those results? And that's now where I'm at. Am I there? Absolutely not. Like, the stuff that I'm going to be doing in the next 5 to 10 years, like, it's laughable. Like, this whole situation that's happened is the best thing that happened. I always say depression is the best thing that ever happened to me. The second best thing that ever happened to me was this, because it allowed to give me the kickstart on the platform to actually do what I needed to do. Like, again, the universe, it said to me, listen, you need to give your energy to this. Let me give you a helping hand, because I never would have left that gym. I never would have left that gym. And it would have taken too much of my energy for me to actually do what I needed to do. I didn't have the energy, but now I didn't have that. I give my energy into this, and now I'm on such a mission. Like, who do I need to become? What do I need to get rid of? What things do I need to do? More important, what things do I need to stop doing? So all of these things just come into alignment, because I now know what I want to have in my life and where I want to go. So now I've got this filter, like I talk about. I can now filter my decisions. Is this moving me closer towards my goal or further away? Every day I'm moving myself closer towards my goal or further away. And I had that a little bit before, but now it's so crystal clear to me. Right, this is where I'm going. This is what I'm doing. Right, let's go.
So we've gone through kind of like your work career here. The kind of the gap here is that you've introduced me at the start of this podcast as your girlfriend. So there's obviously a sequence of events that have happened there. So I actually went back and listened to the podcast that you did with Mikey. So for the first time, I'd not listened to it until like last week. And Mikey was asking single Pringle, I quote, Dan, whether he was looking to date, what was happening, and all of that good stuff. And I quote Daniel James, you said you could be in a healthy relationship, but they'd have to get me. Be my ride or die, see where I'm going, and let's fucking go. Someone would need to push me. You're not prepared to stop, change, or slow down. You know who you are. You know where you're going. Somebody needs to jump on board to create something together, and you have no time for games or bullshit.
There you go.
So that's what you said coming up to 3 years ago.
Where did
what
it go
happened?
wrong? What happened? Where did it go wrong? Oh dear. Where did it go wrong? So what do you want to know? What's the question?
I mean, I don't want to know because I know. But
what's the question?
So I guess the question is, obviously, you know, you were single, we were best mates. What made you decide that you wanted to go down, I guess, the relationship path, and what does life look like for you now?
So like I said, I had no intention of ever going out with you. Like I said, no offence. And like I said, the whole narrative that was pushed down the throats as well about us sleeping together, it was just tiresome and boring. Like, for the first time in my life, I was working with someone that actually understood where I wanted to go and was trying to help support me. I just really enjoyed being able to just sit down on a Saturday and just go through some work stuff. And again, obviously, because you've been a client of mine, you knew how my brain worked and you knew what I was trying to create. And it was amazing to actually have someone be like, oh, I'm not mad. Like, this big idea about having this mental health summit thing, like, this person doesn't think I'm nuts, which is great. And you were pushing me, you were challenging me, like, we're just creating this. I was like, this is amazing. And obviously, when everything kicked off and left the gym, again, the whole narrative was that we were still together. Like, no, still friends. Like,
I think at one point we were married at this point.
Yeah, because and again, for context of this, because the whole way that me and Katie were sleeping together came through one weekend. Basically, Katie's got a little lad called Theo, amazing lad. But Katie plays hockey every Saturday. So what happened is Katie would come and see me after hockey on Saturday at the gym. We'd do some work. And this one particular weekend, someone decided they weren't going to have their child on the weekend, which then meant Katie couldn't play hockey, which then meant she couldn't come to the office. So she said, come round to mine, and we'll do some work. So I then went round to Katie's house, where we're at now. This is the garage, and did the work. So literally did what we normally do on Saturday, but it was in your living room and Theo was upstairs asleep.
Life force.
And somebody that lives 45 minutes out of the way of Katie's house, not going to mention his name, to give him the airtime, decided to drive past Katie's house and see my car there, and then came to the conclusion that I was sleeping with Katie. Fortunately, he was man enough to confront me about this the next day and said, I know you're sleeping with Katie. I said, what do you mean? And he said, I saw your car around there last night. I said, yeah, we were working, to which I then loaded up the timestamps on my laptop of the videos that we'd watched and what we were doing and all my notes to basically be like, I was not sleeping with your girlfriend while your child was upstairs.
Pause.
Yeah.
Ex-girlfriend.
Ex-girlfriend. Very clear. Yeah,
very
clear because you hadn't been together. I'm glad you said that. You hadn't been together for what? 2 years? 2 years. So again, this wasn't even like a new thing. 2 years, you've not been together. So even if we were sleeping together, none of his business, but we weren't. That was the whole thing around this. No, we were just working, and it's actually because you tried to play games that I was there in the first place, because I'd rather be working in my office rather than working on a Wednesday evening or whatever the hell it happened to be. So that's where the whole story came from, about us sleeping together. And again, he kept saying, oh, I've got proof. There's no proof because we weren't sleeping together. And then I then left the gym, and then you basically turned around and said, listen, like, you can come work in my office. And that's where the podcast we said with Jeanette, that was upstairs in your office. So shared that with you. And then we spent more time together. And then you basically were like, I want to convert this garage. So we then converted the garage into this. Like,
I think for me, it'd been on my roadmap to do for a long time, but I just hadn't done it. Do you know what I mean? With a small child. And I think you were like, oh, what should we do? And then I was like, oh. Yeah.
Because the thing for me is, with this whole thing was, I was lonely. And I don't have many friends in my life. I genuinely don't have many close friends in my life at all that I'll enjoy spending time with me, enjoy spending time with me. So we were going on holidays together, and again, people were like, "Oh, like, no, just friends." Like, but I was just I can't. Again, now people know where my head's at. I was just lonely. I was lonely, borderline depressed, and I just wanted company. And obviously, when we built this together, it was amazing. And then over time, basically, with everyone still trying to convince that we were sleeping together, I basically just ran out of reasons. Genuinely, it's like, well, why? Well, like, because the thing, and this is what people do. I never looked at you that way because I wasn't interested. My head wasn't in the space to entertain that. I wasn't bothered. And again, I was sleeping with other people at this time as well. Wasn't interested. You were sleeping with other people as well. Wasn't interested. And I just ran out of reasons. And then again, did the deed. And then again, it's like a casual thing. And then we had to go to Barbados. And again, the way that happened was basically a news ticket. Basically, we weren't meant to go together, but something happened with the ticket because of COVID. Probably beep out the C-bomb. Because of that, basically, money got refunded. So we ended up going there. And when we were there, that was when it was a bit like, we're basically together. Like, we're basically best mates. Like, we've now crossed that barrier. Like, we're basically together. And the thing for me that there's difference between all of the relationships was that you knew me. So you knew my past. You knew what I'd been like. You literally knew all the darkest secrets of me, and then we were still together, and you were still choosing to be with me. Whereas before, I kind of have to pretend to be a certain way. I get with someone, and in my head I'm like, but if you know the real me, you're going to run away. And that was the difference. And also I think the same with you, because obviously we're friends. Like, I knew you inside out. Like, I knew your past and knew what you've been about, and that was the difference. And people from the outside couldn't understand it, couldn't see it. Like, well, of course you guys sleep together. No, genuinely, like, we're friends. Like, we're friends. Like, literally confiding in each other, and basically we're almost like, in the most bizarre way, almost like therapists to each other, like helping each other heal through this stuff and basically accepting each other. And it can just be like a platonic thing. But then when you run out of reasons, it's like, well, actually, like, well, why not? And then that's when it happened. Then after Barbados, I literally was sat here at this desk, you were there, and I literally was typing away, and I looked at you and went, I guess we're together then. And you just laughed and like, yeah, and that was it. So that's how we got together. Like, it just carried on with the day. And it wasn't a thing. It's not a big thing. We don't have an official thing we're together. We just say when we was in Barbados, which was basically a year ago. And that's basically how it happened. So, like I said, it was never planned. I had no intention. I wasn't in the headspace really. In the nicest way possible. You're not my type on paper. Like, you know this again, because this is the whole laugh and joke. Like, you're not my type on paper. But again, when it comes to types, for me, it's not about that. It's about actually, as on a level, do you connect? So again, if you can just read through that list of one by one of what I said.
Okay. They have to get me.
Yeah.
Become my ride or die.
Yeah.
See where I'm going.
Yeah.
Jump on board.
Yeah.
Push me.
Yeah.
Because you're not prepared to stop.
I'm not prepared to stop. Yeah, and I'm still not prepared to stop.
You're not prepared to change.
I've sped up. Yeah, I'm not changing.
Or slow down.
No.
You know where you're going.
Yeah.
So you need
Which is interesting because I said I knew where I was going there, but I didn't know where I was going. That's really interesting because I didn't know where I was going. Yeah, I clearly had some idea of roughly where I was going, but I've really honed in now, so I know exactly where I'm going. So yeah, 100%.
And you need someone to jump on board and to create something together.
Yep.
No time for games or bullshit.
Yep.
I think for me that last bit is that we'd kind of, I guess, jumped on board from the business perspective before the life perspective.
Absolutely, yeah. And I said, and you know everything about where I was going and stuff like that, so you just got, it was a natural thing to happen, There you go. What was another part of that question?
How's life now? Like life-wise, not work-wise?
Awesome. Like I said, my life, I genuinely couldn't be happier. So like I said, obviously part of going out with you, which I was very aware of as well, is Theo. I never wanted a kid in my life. Made it very, very clear for multiple years of my life. Made it very, very vocal. I didn't want a kid in my life. I had no interest in kids. Don't particularly like kids. However, like, it's been awesome. And like I said, I really think that it's brought out a new side of me. And I think it's something that I was missing in my life to have something like that. Which again, I still have no desire to have my own. But like I said, but again, it's like, with him, it's like, because I've been in his life, like he's seen me for 2 years. I think it brings a different element to my life. I think it's matured me in a positive way and given me more, again, of a purpose to do what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, if that makes sense. Not for him, but it's I don't know, it's brought a different side of me. I think it's a side of me that I needed to be enlightened and have the light shined on, but I didn't know I needed it, if that makes sense. I can't explain any more than that. But yeah, apart from that, my life is awesome. Yeah. Still have bad days, but yeah, very few and far between.
So the question here is, you've gone, and this is me asking this question, you have gone from essentially being what I would only describe as a fuckboy, sex addiction, essentially cheating on everyone that you've kind of come across. What has changed now?
Me. I was just a lost human, like I said. How much do you want me to go into this? We had a semi-discussion about this before. I don't know how much you want me to go into this. Okay.
It's your podcast.
I'll roll with it. We can always edit it. We can always edit it out. It's fine. What has changed? Me. I'm realising why I was doing that. And a lot of it, again, was still not wanting to accept people into my life. And basically almost wanting to cheat to get found out so they would break up with me before they found out who I really was. I think that's fundamentally what it was, deep down. So that feeling of not being good enough and not wanting... there's a lot... It's me, essentially, what's changed. And realising that I didn't fully know myself what I wanted. Because again, it's funny because I said it there, and that is what I wanted. And again, you get what you manifest, 100%. And it's just that sense of, knowing what I want. And we had a very clear conversation when we started going out, that this is what I want. So I was very clear on it. And again, basically what I said on there is what I said. This is what I want. And I think I've used the point I'm selfish. So I am selfish. I'm very well aware that I'm selfish, but I'm selfish for a reason. Like, I know where I'm going. And you knew that ahead of time. So I made it very clear, this is where I'm going. And as I said, I think I even said to you, either jump on board or you don't, but this is where I'm going. And I'm not prepared to deviate. This is where I'm going. You're either on board or not. And then as a part of this as well is the fact of, with the whole sex thing, I like variety. I've always liked variety. Again, I'm into all sorts of stuff, and again, I know you're the same. So one of the biggest things in this relationship was the swinging, being an open relationship, which again, never been in one before. But essentially, for those of you that are wondering what that looks like, essentially go to clubs, meet other couples, meet single people. We meet as a couple or separately. And the way that I describe this and use this is that I love vanilla ice cream. I don't love vanilla ice cream. I love mint chocolate chip ice cream. I love mint chocolate chip ice cream. I absolutely love it. Mint chocolate chip ice cream is my favourite ice cream. But sometimes you want strawberry, sometimes you want vanilla, sometimes you want normal chocolate. You just want variety. And that, I think, has always been me in a relationship. And whenever I've wanted something, I kind of went out and got it without thinking about the other person I was with. Whereas when we had that conversation, you were very much on the same thing as me. Like, you've, again, cheated on ex-partners, etc., etc., etc. And because we're very open and honest about this at the start, it's then led to a place of like, well, rather than us doing that, like, if we've got needs, go get your needs met, like either together, individually, wherever it is. And it's that open, honest communication where the whole relationship is built on trust. Our whole thing is trust. And it was trust before we got together. So it was trust in a business capacity. So I trusted you with my business. My business is my baby. Like the Prominent Project is my baby. So I let you in my baby first and then let you in my life. And then you then let me in your child's life. So it's like that mutual trust thing. So for me, it's like, I don't have any need to cheat. No need. Because normally I need to get a need met, either sexually or emotionally. My emotions are fine. I'm very in tune with my emotions. I'm very well aware. Like I understand what I need, what I'm feeling, etc. So I can process that. And if I need something from a sexual perspective, again, all I've got to do is just speak to you about it, and it's done. It's sorted. Yeah. Like you're down with it, you're cool with it, you organise it. Like it's not an issue. You know what I mean?
Another thing I organise.
Yeah, but again, it is what it is what it is, and that's the thing for me. Like, and I don't expect people to understand this, listening to this, and that's fine. It's none of their business. But that's what works for me. Yeah. Has worked for us. Again, it was the communication beforehand. I was very clear that. Because when we first started going out, I said I didn't think I was ready for the relationship. And the reason why I didn't think I was ready for the relationship was that sexual aspect. I was just like, I still don't know where I'm at in terms of wanting sex with other people. Because I don't want to settle down with one person. That thought terrifies me. Yeah. So I made it very clear from the start, like, after we said, are we together? The answer was that literally how the conversation went. But then literally a few days later, we're like, actually, it needs to be some sort of ground rules.
Let's get some rules.
Yeah, and that's basically what it was. Like some ground rules. So my thing was like, I still don't actually know where I'm at with my head. Like, I don't know actually if I'm going to cheat or whatever it is. Like, like, and we had the conversation. It's like, just sexually, sometimes I want something different. And well, me too. Cool. And then we had a conversation, and that was basically the outcome. And it's worked fantastically. We've been doing it again for a year. It's been amazing. There's been no issues, no problems. And actually, it's the strongest, healthiest relationship I've ever been in. Like, I've got access to your phone. You've got access to my phone. You know my passwords. Like, there's no hiding. It's just, this is what it is. Like, you ask me a question, I give you the answer. Like, there's no hiding. And the first time in my life, I don't need to hide, lie, pretend, think about what I'm saying. It's just, I'm literally just being me in every aspect of my life. And it's so freeing. I'm not pretending to be, for the first time in my life, I'm not having to pretend in any area of my life to be anything. I'm just being me. And it's coming out of my business, it's coming out of the podcast, the quality of my work, the impact I'm having in schools, the impact I'm having in work organisations. I'm just being me. I don't give a fuck. I do not give a fuck. I don't care in the nicest way possible. Anyone listening to this that's going to judge me, I don't give a fuck. I do not care. I don't care. And I mean that with complete sincerity. I spent so much of my life caring what other people think. Now, do I care what you think? Yes. Do I care what Mikey thinks? Yes. Do I care what some people? Yeah, I do. And I'm not going to pretend I don't. But for the vast majority of people, are you doing what I want to do? No. So I don't care. Do you understand my life? No. So I don't care. I don't care. Judge me. I don't care. I'm not bothered. I really don't care. Like, it's like, I use this story all the time. It's like 8 Mile and Eminem. I know more about my life, my dark sides than you do. So you may have heard a story about me, you may have heard this, you may have heard, cool. Well, I lived it. So I know a lot more than you. And if you want more information, come and ask me and I'll tell you the actual truth. All the bad bits. Because the stories you may have heard, you don't know half of it, and I'll tell you the actual truth. I'll tell you all the bad bits, all the dark bits. I'll own it. I have been an absolute arsehole. I've been horrific to women. Awful. Not anything like illegal or anything bad like that, but I've treated women awfully. Like, emotionally manipulated them. I've been a horrendous human being. I can't do anything about that. But all I can do is from right now, or however long it was I made the decision, is just be a better human being. To actually be something I'm proud of. To actually, when I look back and like, do you know what? Yeah, for 28 years, for 32 years of my life, I was a certain way. But actually, when you realise and saw the light of stuff, you completely changed. And I've just completely bought into that. I can't change it. It is what it is. If people are still going to judge me for being the old me, bearing in mind the tattoo artist Rachel was one of the girls that got caught up in at the start. Yeah. She has literally said to my face, "You're a different person." We still talk regularly. She tattooed my whole arm for me. She's tattooed you. We're good friends. Like, because she literally has seen the difference in me. She's not been like, no, you were this way. Yeah, I was. I treated her terribly. Because she's one of those people that gave me so much love and affection, I couldn't handle it. So I treated her poorly. But I've apologised. And that means nothing. Actions speak louder than words. So when she sees me actually backing up my words with actions, that means something. She said it to my face, "You're a different person." Yeah. And that's the difference for me. And whether people are going to judge me, my exes, or anyone I've hurt, like sexually, cool. Like, you do you. But actually just judge me on my actions and just keep looking at what I'm doing and the good I'm trying to put out there. I can't undo the past, but for me, all I'm trying to do is put the coins into that positive bank balance, and just hopefully, just by the end of my life, hopefully there's a positive bank account rather than something negative that I've done. That's my goal, is just to keep putting more positive in there and stop withdrawing, because that's all I do, is just withdrawing from society.
So what's next? What does the future look like for you? Where are we going? I'm
not going to go into too much detail about it, because I like to keep some cards close to my chest. But one of my goals is to be one of the top speakers in the world. Again, make no qualms about that. I want to be one of the top motivational speakers in the world. Not just motivation, I want to be inspiring. I want to actually inspire people to change. I don't just want to go on stage and motivate people. I want to actually inspire people to change through sharing my story. Again, every single day I'm learning, every single day I'm studying. Like, I'm on a mission to just get this information out there. I've got a new coaching program that launches in the new year that basically going to help people get from being completely stuck inside their own head, a prisoner in their own head, to get unstuck. That's what this program's going to do through my own experience, my own coaching stuff that I've done. That's where I'm at now. That's my passion. That's my life. And that's the impact I want to have. Like for me, when I die, I know this coaching program I'm launching is going to help hopefully change and save people's lives. That's my goal. That's my mission. That's why I'm here. I still want to give back to the schools. I still want to give back to the organisations that I do, like helping people. That's my mission. That's what I want to do. This podcast is here for you guys. I'm only going to get better. I've got some big plans for the podcast as well coming forward. Which again is why I wanted to do this. So I just never want anyone to use anything against me. I've owned everything. Like there's still more that I could have been going for 2 hours. I could have gone more. There's probably another 2 hours worth of stuff. But I'll own it. If anyone tries to call me out on anything, I'll just own it because I know everything about myself. I know what I've done. I know what I am. I know what I've done. But actually, don't judge me on that. Judge me on what I'm doing now, moving forward. Like I'm moving forward. My goal is to help impact people, to help people get out of their own way, essentially. So yeah, that's where I'm going in the future. I've got a lot of exciting plans coming up in the new year. I'm just excited because it's like a new lease of life now. Like my purpose. People talk about purpose all the time. For me, it's just been a natural progression, and I know what I've been put on this earth to do, and that's it.
So final question.
Yep.
For those people that feel like they've messed up their life time and time again, what advice would you give them?
Like we did there, use my question and we asked at the end and kind of turned it.
Turned it into me.
Very good, like that. So just repeat it again for me because I was laughing at that.
For those people that feel they've messed up their life time and time again, what advice would you give to them?
First of all, own it. Like stop trying to make excuses for it. Like accept your part. Like I said, apart from that thing that happened at the gym, the rest of it's all on me. 100% on me. Like little parts people had to play in it, like that girl tried to kill me, yeah, she had to play a part, but the vast majority was me. Like I get it, like cool. Just own it. Take responsibility. Stop running away from it. Stop running away from yourself because you're going to be with you for the rest of your life. So just make the decision. And again, the word decision means to cut yourself off from any other possibility. So when you decide something, there's no other choice. This is the only way. This is the way. So when you decide, I am changing, there's no opportunity. I'm doing it. So it's like that old thing about burning the ships. So I think whoever it was that invaded England, or I can't remember, the Vikings, basically the king said, right, burn the ships. So basically they're on this island, they've burnt the ships. You're either going to win this battle or you're done. There's no option. You fight or that's it. That's what you've got to do with your life. Make the decision you're going to change. Understand no matter how much good you do in the world, people are still going to judge you from the past version of you. That's okay. Let them live in the past. Let other people live as that past version of you. They can sit there, cool, because it's not you anymore. Let them have it. Let go of that old version of you. Let the other people have it. They can sit there, tell stories about it, cool, whatever. That's not going to change. Your focus should just be on being a better version of you. Every single day. Can you, in that bank account, if you are negative 10,000 units, can you make it plus 20? What actions do you have to do every day to get that bank balance up? Just putting positives in and just outweigh it. You can't undo the past, but you can affect the future. You can affect other people's lives. You can make positive changes. And again, the mistakes that you've made, you are the most qualified to help people that have gone through the mistakes that you've gone through. So again, go and help other people that are struggling with stuff that you've gone through. Actually help inspire other people because you know how it feels to be stuck and lost and helpless. So go and help those people, actually make an impact. And if you can, just like they talk about the 12-step recovery program, actually go and say sorry to people. If you can, and if it's right to, people you have hurt and you have upset, apologise and just own it. Don't expect them to say anything to you. Don't expect them to say it's okay. But for you, just go and apologise. I'm really sorry how I treated you. I'm really sorry that I did this. Just apologise. Just own it. Just own it. Don't try and make excuses for it. Just own it. Yes, it happened, but I didn't know any better. Now I know better. I'm doing better. And that's the difference. I was doing the best. Every single day I've done the best of what I knew. The problem is I didn't know a lot. Now I know better. I'm doing better. And that's going to continually be the case. I just giving back. If people want to judge me for stuff I've done in the past, that's a them problem, not a me problem. I don't care. You can have my past. I don't want it anymore. Sit there, tell all the stories you want about me. I literally do not care. But actually, people then come and look at what I'm doing right now. You'll see it's not the same person. You're talking about a different thing. That it does not exist anymore. So you either look at me in my life now and judge me for now, which is fine. You may not like what I'm doing. You may not like my message. You may still think I'm a twat. Cool. I don't care. Because I know that I'm helping impact people. And I know it's coming from a real, genuine place. And I'm being my truest, authentic version of myself for the first time in my life. You either accept that or you don't. If you don't, I don't care. And if you do, welcome aboard. Like the train's going that way. Let's go. There you go.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
If people want to find out more about you, not on the podcast, where can they find out more information?
So Instagram is where you'll be seeing a lot of the stuff I'm posting. So again, that is the Prime Life Project. On LinkedIn as well, I'll be posting a lot more stuff on there coming the new year, especially about the new coaching program. So that's Daniel James. And obviously, if you're not following the podcast on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcast, like if you're listening to it on audio, I'd go follow us on YouTube. And if you're listening on YouTube, go follow us on audio as well, because I've got some big things coming up in the new year that will affect both platforms. So make sure you're following it on both. So yeah, like I said, appreciate you doing this. I know it was a big thing for you. I hope you guys, the audience listening to this, have taken some value out of this. I've tried to be as completely raw as possibly can be. And yeah, hopefully people take some value out of it and people are here for the ride.